So
Wait, can the audience see it, or are you green screen for this?
they can't see it yet, but they can hear us now. No,
Oh,
they'll be able to see everything.
Let's not talk about it when they can't see
No?
it. Yeah, man. No, like, I'm actually really glad you reached out to me, Lanzer, because, geez, it's just been such a strange time. And I know we'll get into it and stuff, but, like, sometimes strange times create unexpected revelations, you know?
Yeah, when times are tough, and what do they say? Both innovation and personal development is one of the hallmarks, one of the byproducts of adversity. It's 1,000 different ways they say that, but going through tough times causes you to triage your life and your priorities and what's really important, and then you come out of it like, well, do I really need to do that now? Do I need to go back to doing that, being that way? I've had my fair share of those inflection points as well.
That sounds like you have.
Yeah, but we're here to talk about yours. I'm excited, man. When I saw that video, the third one, I wanted to do
Which one was that?
It was the hard sucking gaming. I wanted to do an episode with you like that day, but not long after my computer broke. So here we are again.
Got you that juiced, huh?
Yeah, I was juiced. I don't know, it just struck a chord. Like I put in the comment. It's just, it was good. There was a lot of heart in it, a lot of real human experience.
Yeah. Well, that's where it came from, you know. So this whole like saga kind of got started with a combination of things. The most long term of which is dealing with being laid off from my job. Tech downturn, tech job, lose the job. I'm still looking, actually. So if anyone works for a software company with a solutions team, hit me up, by the way. But anyway, I digress.
What is a solutions team?
Solutions, okay, so solutions is like outside of the box problem solving for software as a service situation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like, in terms of like what the role is, like if you imagine somebody who can sit down in a room with engineers, business execs, sales people, data analysts, and marketing people, speak all of their languages, get them all talking to each other, and agree on the same vision that everyone can get excited about, that's what that job is.
Program
there's
manager.
A more like technical.
Project manager.
I've been called the solutions architect, although the meaning of that particular role is different depending on where you look. There's a more technical interpretation of the role, which is more like a senior software engineer who's kind of branching into more client work, or someone who's kind of more on the customer side of things but has kind of a technical generalist background, and that's where I fit in.
Okay, so it seems like solutions architect is just on the almost technical side of program management. It almost seems like.
It could be. Maybe you have to tell me about program management.
Program management. Okay, I keep forgetting. So in the government, so DoD, federal government type stuff, a project manager or project leader is called a program manager. A program being a collection of projects, and a project being a definite beginning and definite end of some sort of definable task or goal that you're after. So usually, because we deal in our scale in the government is much larger than your typical. We deal with programs, collection of projects, rather than just like onesie twosie upgrade sort of stuff. So for instance, I'm a program manager of an aircraft, and within that aircraft are many different focuses and projects, and within those projects are sub projects, and like the lowest project can be upwards of $50 million. And that's like
sure.
Yeah, and the higher one's like billions of dollars. So, and it's just many wickets. So when I say program manager, I'm a teamwork enabler, and the way you kind of like solutions architect define that.
Yeah.
But I'm more on the like.
Overlap.
I'm more like on the relational side and program management side. So like the paperwork, the bureaucracy, the removing of obstacles, so that my engineers, my finance people, they can then technically achieve the work in the most efficient and effective way possible with as few obstacles in their way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's
I
what we
think
call program managers.
it sounds like the soul of what you do is quite similar to the soul of what I do, but the context might be different.
Yeah.
For
You
me, it's always you work at a software company that's trying to sell their software to customers, and they want 80% of what you can do and 20% of what you can't. So how do you solve the 20%? That's where I come in.
So how do you solve the 20%?
It's different every time, brother.
Like a
That's what
program
makes it
manager would
exciting.
say.
Yep.
It depends. That's funny.
Mhm.
Right on, man. So now they can see us. You can't see the whole thing, but I can pan it up a little bit. So it starts at the top, which
Let's
is
see it, man. Give us
yeah.
the
So
inventory.
that right, I kind of have like my military side and then my general traveling life side. That is
Okay.
something that I got in Ecuador. It's like it's kind of like a bass flute, so it's an instrument.
Huh.
And then at World
Can you
Trade
play
Center. Not exactly. I'm not very good yet. I'm still trying to learn.
More
The
of a
guy who
memorabilia item.
the guy who sent me the tutorial said it all in Spanish, so I have to like translate.
Oh, just learn Spanish. What's the problem?
That's a 105 shell that was fired out of an aircraft while I was deployed in Iraq, firing at ISIS.
It's huge.
That's what they're shooting at the bad guys when you're in that plane. It's a giant thing. And then that was one of my going away gifts for when I was in another part of the desert some years ago, doing my stuff.
Who bestowed that gift to you?
Oh, my unit. So it was a collection of other military people when I was leaving, sent me off with it. And the two scimitars, which is very iconic in Qatar, little country
Cool.
right next to like Saudi Arabia and the Emirates.
Yeah.
And then
We
dog
talked
tags.
a little bit about that last time we talked, right? About your
Right.
experiences there.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I
Yeah,
remember.
I'm trying to go again this year, next year, or whenever I can grab a deployment. I want to
Ah.
hit one more time before I start to have kids and a family and stuff like that.
Yeah, get out there and travel, be out in the world before
Right.
you're more
I want
weighed down.
one last
Stuff like
hurrah in the desert somewhere. One last hurrah before I start reprioritizing my life around a kid.
that. Take some pictures, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Dog tags, the book I wrote, that one released earlier last year, and then first book I wrote, and then different. That one's German. That one is also from Ecuador. It's kind of like a flute. Maracas. Tambores, I think. I can't remember where I got that one from. And then there's like Arabic stuff down here. There's
Mm-hmm.
there's a Coca-Cola can that I've kept. It's in Arabic from like the old, not this World Cup, but the last one.
Okay.
I don't even know who this is, but some important figure that they put on a Pepsi can, and it's Arabic, so I don't really remember what it says.
Huh.
But yeah, it's just various life things.
That's cool, man. It's important
Yeah.
to keep totems of your life to remember what you're about and where you've been.
Yeah, each time has a different memory to it, and then medals, decorations, various military garb that we like to put up to say we did stuff in life.
And I think it's important to do that. Actually, it's a huge mistake I made in my as a young man. I went about my life and just kind of thought that I was above, taking little physical tokens of things and
Mhm.
remembering things. But it is important. It helps you stay centered and stay grounded in where you've been and who you are, and especially when life throws challenges at you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I made the same mistake as you did when I was a younger man too. I
Yeah.
I
we
always look
learn.
down on those tokens of memorabilia as like vanity, and the more.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Showing off.
Yep, exactly right. 10 years ago, I would never have done this. Never
Mhm.
ever. Silent type, just not
That's right.
not important.
Stoic.
But now, I don't know. The older I get, the less. Let's call it
Less you
strict.
remember.
That too. Yes, absolutely. Without these little
Dude.
tokens, I would have probably forgotten some of these memories and be like, oh yeah, I remember where I was when I got that medal. It was
Yeah,
there was sand blasting in my face that day, and we were all at attention, and just like those little details that I just would have forgotten.
that's a memory.
So,
Cool, man.
StratSide 23. Today is another special day where I have Deeg, the Deegster, and StratSide 23, as you can see, hard stuck. It's short phrase, longer phrase, hard stuck on gaming. And now, after a couple of his other videos since then, hard stuck and how to get unstuck in gaming. So there's a few contextual subtitles there going on, but back again, Deeg. What is this, 2 or 3 times now? I think this is the second time. So
We talked a few times though, so it's easy to lose track.
It is.
Yeah.
So that's today what we're going to go over. Disclaimer, introduction, scope, discussion, wrap it up. I speak for myself. Deeg, do you speak for anyone else other than yourself?
Just myself and the whole human race.
Got it. Yourself and the whole human race. And intros. I'm Lanzer, NC Devil Dogs, Connery. Been that way for most of my PlanetSide career. A little stint outside in PlanetSide battles, server smash type stuff. Nowadays, I do StratSide podcast, which is used to be big data approaching strategic, overarching topics in PlanetSide. A lot lately, though, I've been doing a lot of like face-to-face talking, like people like Deegster here. A few days ago,
you've been so busy, man.
I know.
Sorry to interrupt. You have been so busy talking to people.
It's just, I don't know. It's so fun. It's so interesting.
You've really gotten on a roll with it. It's awesome to watch.
Once you, well, for me at least, saying, hey, how about we talk about the things that we've been, yelling at each other over voice chat or yell chat. How about we just put on a camera and talk? Like Aeflic, twice now. Lex, number 2 is almost locked down.
Man, that conversation you and Lex had last year, man, that was such a, put that in a time capsule.
Well, that one we're back on again, so we just have to.
When's that happening?
Well, it was gonna happen, but then my computer broke. It was like it was locked down, but then now we're back in place. We're just waiting on him to respond, and then we'll go for it. But yeah, talking to people who I would never have otherwise met or talked to, or just flamed each other over Twitter or whatever, and now we're just peeling back that human experience, and I really enjoy it. So. And now I also do a lot of VODs. I just turn the camera on whenever I've been doing a lot of Colossus stuff. I've been rolling around in Colossus a lot lately, so.
Learned anything cool?
Yes, tons of stuff. Skylance battery is the ultimate AA gun.
Huh.
Yeah, okay. I can, third person is more accurate than first person, so whenever I go up against, I know, it's very odd. I think it's the way the shooting mechanic works, but yeah, whenever people try and come at me now in aircraft, I just Skylance battery, and it doesn't take but 1 to 3 shots, and I'll find them. But it's a great tank. Expensive, though. So, that's me.
Yeah, man.
Deegster.
I'm Deeg. What's up, folks? I'm probably best known on the PlanetSide community for my very long interviews with the head honcho himself, Rel, the game designer of PlanetSide 2. We
had some big names on your show.
I try to invite people who I'm excited to talk about, man, or talk with, man. And there's all kinds. But yeah, I like you really enjoy talking through these community issues, and I have always, I think, approached what I do as sort of like gaming's what I know, gaming's where I've been. Let's start with that. But I also have like this thing that's been kind of trying to bubble up underneath it, this sort of human interest, this desire to understand how to live better, how to move on, and I think that's what's really come to the fore in the last few months for me. But even before, anyone who's listened to my interviews knows how obnoxious I am, because rather than talking about all the things about game design, I'm like, So how did you feel when you read that? You know,
Yeah,
like,
you're really big into stories and experiences.
no,
You
we're
seem to zero in
narrative-driven
on it.
creatures, don't you think?
I do. I do think that. So
Yeah, man.
you, at this point in time, I think the last time we talked, I went over your stats, which was an enormous amount of hours. I remember not even a year or two ago when I would be, running around doing military stuff. I'd have my headphones in listening to your basement side stuff and just kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, learning about it. But you're over 100 now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you make very long content. The hours add up quick, I guess.
Yeah, it's an insane amount of time and effort that you put into just talking to people, sharing stories. And then
It's been really
your
important
late
to me. It's
night.
been.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, it's been a mostly selfish process. Like,
Sure, sure.
I do it. I do it because, like, speech for me, speaking is thinking, and the way I'm always been used to accessing that is through dialogue, talking to
Mm,
people.
you
It's
and me
only been in
both.
the last few months that I've figured out how to think through things without having conversations. It's been interesting, learning voyage, but yeah, and I just think that there's so much benefit to be had from actually patiently exposing complex issues to, non-trivial conversation, and it's not an easy thing to do.
Patiently exposing complex issues. I think where you and I agree on that, where we might end up diverging, is you do it through non-confrontation, and I think I
You think
tend to
I'm
go
non-confrontational?
I enjoy the conflict. It's like
Okay.
someone, I don't remember who it was. It was before Money's or Dr. Money Pants's of a couple days ago. Someone said that conflict is an opportunity to learn, and that's the way I look at it.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's like iron
Also, an
sharpens
opportunity
iron
to
sort of
sharpen your
thing.
mind.
Right.
Yeah.
But if I'm not careful, and in my younger years I wasn't wise about this, where that would cut, and it would cut both ways, and I was just, a young child swinging a sword around thinking I was cool. But no. But I do like that conflict. It's like, it's purifying. It's motivating. So all the reaction I've gotten
It's an
in
important
from
thing to do, and disregarding necessary conflict is a real moral hazard.
I agree. I might sometimes lean into it a little bit too much. But yeah, that's the
Huh.
life. That's the life journey of just earning wisdom through time, I think. Figuring out where that
Ain't
happy
no other
medium
way.
is between relationship and then, speaking truth and love and the whole nine. But
Yeah, man.
Deegster. So the scope of this talk normally have like a nice little pie chart, nice little colors. This one,
Very exciting.
instead, this time, the scope of the talk encompasses about 4 videos, one in particular. So the journey starts November 1st, 2022. This is where I saw that video, Hard Times and
Mm.
Gratitude, and
Ah.
you started talking about how you were going through some troubles. And then about not even a few days later, it was
Hmm.
2 days later exactly, you came out with Isolation is a Gift. And that
Hmm.
was like, it seemed like you were in the thick of it at that point in time.
Mm. Hmm.
Then a month later, Hard Stuck in Online Games, and this is the one that really cued me in to want us coming here today, is just
Hmm.
something about what you said struck a chord, and I had a lot of thoughts, and I want to hear more about what you're experiencing. And then kind of like the denouement, almost getting unstuck in life, which was, it says 9 hours ago, but that was when I pulled it about a week ago. That was in 23, so about 7 days ago. Then
Hmm.
you talk about getting unstuck, and you start talking about what it is that you see. So what I charted just in my brain as I went back and reflected, this is what I think I saw, and then we'll talk about the particulars. But November, you talk about how a lot of things started hitting you at once.
Hmm.
House, family, job, pet. It's just one after another. And then almost like through while you're getting burned and you're firefighting and you're trying to survive, you come out with just trying to make it sort of video. Isolation is a gift, and trying to see like the silver lining. But at least that's what I took from it.
Yeah.
Very sincere, genuine type. Hey, I'm just trying to make it another day, sort of thing.
Definitely.
Said some really cool things that I jotted down on the next slide that I was super interested in. And then hard stuck in online games, and I see that one as the penultimum, the apex of what I would call your journey. It's like that rising action where you getting through the slog of the, okay, this is happening. Okay, now I need to deal with it. How do I deal with it? All right, now I'm dealing with it, and through that character refining moment, you came up with some real gems, and then finishing off with kind of like a debrief of getting unstuck to where we are now, and that's kind of what I witnessed since November, and it took us this long. It took me this long to get you on the podcast to where we can speak about the specifics. But did you have any openers that you wanted to start with before we get into the next slide?
Nah, man. Wherever you want to take it's cool with me. I think you did a pretty good job of describing what happened there. I mean, basically, man cruising through life. Man, life goes off the rails. Man reflects on life. Life goes on. Man takes lessons and starts applying them to life. What you see with
The hero's
hard-stuck in
journey.
online games. Let's find out. The hard-stuck in online games video was very much an antithesis. It was a negative vision of the future that I've always reacted negatively to, but I've never been able to surface my complaint with it and the alternative that I can envision. The idea of being unstuck. When I made that video, I knew where it was going. I knew where I was going to go with it. I didn't know the how. And over December and January, I've been working feverishly offline to develop the sort of vision for where I need to go with my content and with myself. They're kind of I would say that they're pacing each other on their journey.
And was that like a
And
reevaluation that you were doing in response to, or just recognition of, hey, something's got to change?
it's kind of like oh man, like that things are wrong. You know that you have some idea of how they could be better. You're busy. Okay, you're busy, and you're full of excuses about why you can't actually help solve the problem outside yourself. And then all of a sudden, you're not busy. So you dig deep. You ask yourself, am I really the person to solve this problem? Am I really going to try to make my life in a different way to hit at this problem? And for me, the answer was yes. I am going to try to find out if I can help people, and especially myself, get unstuck in life and grow from the things that have hurt us so much. Games are such an incredible medium, but it's so easy to fall into negative use patterns that mask underlying issues, or to be used by games, as sophisticated as they've become. And it's a real trick to figure out where that sits in your life in a healthy way. And my hypothesis, which I proposed in the hard stuck in online games video, which I'm still trying to figure out how to back up, but I do believe it's true, is that I believe that not only should games not harm you, but that they should help you. Games should be of benefit to the person playing them. And I think that there's a really deep well of people online who very much who live within gaming worlds and keep on the tip of their tongues a sort of joke about, yeah, we're wasting our time, we're wasting our lives, haha. We're stuck in games. part of the whole Unstuck word that I've settled on comes from actually a really great Guild Wars 2 community. So Guild Wars 2, another MMORPG, they have guilds, which is basically the same thing as a PlanetSide outfit, right? And one of the biggest creators, a fellow named Mighty Teapot, who I've interviewed a couple times, really cool guy, hosts a sort of like creator network slash big guild for the community where they run a bunch of events, and they called it Hard Stuck. And as soon as I saw the name for that community, there was something about it, just like, oh man, people really are hard stuck, aren't they?
Mm.
I was really hard stuck, wasn't I? And it's not like I've gone from being hard stuck to being completely unstuck. It's a thing you step out of slowly. But you know, I think that the world is a place full of problems, and we all have a huge opportunity to make it a better place by making ourselves into the thing that can solve those problems. And I'm trying to remake myself now.
And where are you right now? Are you in a sustainable place? Are you still in like the orient yourself? Are you well into execution?
Right now, I think I'm really trying to re-announce myself to people so that they can get a sense of what they can expect from me. I think actually it's been a real weakness of mine for the last few years. I've been a little wishy-washy in my value proposition to people. People are like, are you like a Guild Wars 2 podcast? Are you like a PlanetSide podcast? Or like, are you like, you're not talking about game design? You're not giving critique on like, you know, updates? Like, what are you? Like, what are you, Deeg? And it's been a hard question to answer. The old byline I use is telling the human stories behind gaming, which I think is a fair description. But what value is that to people? Why should someone care about that? And what I've been trying to figure out is the answer to that question and a way to repackage that idea. And I'm very much focused on getting a whole new whack of content out that sort of announces my basic philosophy, what I'm trying to do, what success I've had in my own life to kind of establish some credibility with the things I'm talking about. You know, things like weight loss, getting over gaming addiction, and a bunch of other things besides. And I don't know exactly where it's going to go, Lanzer, but I know I got to try. So that's what I'm doing.
So it sounds like in the kind of like the typical, what you call it, the Phoenix, where there's the death and the rebirth. Deeg 1.0, telling the human stories behind gaming. Deeg 2.0, TBD.
Let's get unstuck together. That's what I'm going with today.
Well,
That's
in some ways, I think you're about halfway, if not most of the way there, with some of your terminology. I wrote down some killer lines that you had. So let's go into the slide 7, which are some things I pulled out. Hard times in gratitude, November 1st. Let's shorten that up one line there. Sometimes things work better when I'm live. People remember who you are to them during the bad times. You said that twice. Well, and it was your ending phrase. So that was when things had just popped off for you.
Yeah, well, it's the answer to a question of how should you act when times are hard. The answer seems to be serve the people who are around you. Be of service.
Yeah, you had talked about how your wife had fallen ill, and
my wife and my cat, by the way, the same back injury. What the hell?
Right.
Something
and you said you didn't even know how that happened with the cat.
we have no idea. She was literally laying in bed and then woke up in the middle of the night yowling and screaming. We thought she was going berserk at first, but yeah, man, it was an adventure.
That was
She's okay now,
that was your
by the
cat's
way.
sympathy.
She's fully recovered off the meds, so I'm pleased to report that the cat has rehabilitated.
Good. And then your house, a pipe had burst and flooded, and
yeah, this whole office that I'm in now got flooded. We lost like this room plus the room above it, which is the master bath, for like a whole month. it was a major inconvenience. And, you know, you have contractors in and out of your house every day. There's like runners on the floor to protect the rug. It's like not really your place for that whole month stuff's happening. I
Mm-hmm.
am grateful that our landlord jumped in and got on it right away and wasn't cheap about doing the work that needed to be done. Whatever needed to happen happened, and we're back into a livable apartment. I'm grateful for that. But yeah, it definitely hit at a weird time. You know, like a whole bunch of these things all in just a few days' time.
And when you were talking about that, you had mentioned that there's no disaster so awful that you can't make it worse. So then you decided, and that kind of a build up to that second bullet there, recognizing the moment, you started talking about how if you don't let go, if you rise to the moment, you solve it, make yourself into the person that around you, the people who around you need, and your wife, your cat, your house, then you can still do those things and not let go of who you are. And you posited, if I do that, who will I become? There's no telling who I'd become.
Yeah. I think the phrase I used was there's no telling what kind of man I can become. Something like that.
There's no telling the kind of man I can become. Direct quote.
Yeah.
Of this, I'm firmly convinced.
Yeah.
And
Man,
that was the comment I responded back to, and I said, firmly convinced you should be.
That whole video is a blur, man. I literally sat down. I was like, man, I don't know what to do. I really am in the thick. I'm in the stew. I need to just start things around. The only way I know how to do that is through talking. So I had no one to talk to. You know, wife was busy doing other stuff. So I just turned the camera on. And I was like, hey, you know what? This is not terrible.
And it probably felt terrible to you at the time. But
No, man,
talking through it seemed to help.
It felt great to get it out. It felt great to get it out. Like it's one of the big lessons of this time for me because I'm used to living with a lot of negative emotion. And I'm used to trying to find ways to act those things out. Video games have been that for me for a long time, getting out aggression, getting out whatever negative feelings I have. But I've been really learning the value of deeply thinking through things in a way that I used to think that I did, but in hindsight, I realized I really didn't. I've actually this desk over my left shoulder. I don't know how well lit it is on the shirt. You can see it very well. But I put that in because I wanted a dedicated place in my office where, you know, it's my office. I control what goes in it. I wanted a dedicated place for writing. I literally just sit there most mornings that I can make time for it. And just, I journal, I plan. The last few videos that you've seen from me, there's been an extensive drafting process that's preceded the recording where I sat down and kind of think through the argument. I think through the examples, all the ideas with a pen. And this video, Hard Times and Gratitude, was sort of like a spasmodic need to get to that. And it just all came out. And it's so full of big ideas because I've been sitting on these ideas for so long and not knowing how to externalize them. And they just kind of blew out of me.
That's very similar to how the long road to StratSide worked, and my day one of gaming, of community management. It's just where do all these things go, and then find a solution to it. But for you, it was much more personal. You started talking about helping out someone on the street, an Uber driver. It almost felt like that was a real thing for you, that happened, and picking up a piece of trash that isn't your responsibility. And then you get to what I would call a very significant moment, I think, in the video, which was recognizing the moment, talking about the talking about the making yourself in the person, the moment that the people around you need to be, and allowing it to call you forth. These things become a part of who you are and what you are. And if you face the moment willingly and sacrifice the part of you that must be sacrificed to rise to them, you'll become someone dangerous. And I put in my own subtext in a useful way. And that struck me pretty close because that's pretty much my life in the military. That the military life tends to do that through call it direct conflict, direct engagement of whether it be your superior, the enemy, or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
But for you, all these things hit you at once, and you recognize now this is it. This is game time. And
Yeah.
you ended up making a decision to sacrifice parts of you that need to be sacrificed. So it was almost like a premonition you were making.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was recognizing the fact that a part of me had to die.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
in order to be something bigger, to be something better. Um, I think that's the nature of it, man. Everything you do is a choice to not do everything else.
Yeah.
You know.
I see that as like
And
a beautiful thing to me, that purifying, do or die, figure it out, and then if you just keep it in perspective of you've got your priorities and you come out on the other side.
yeah.
But you said
Yeah.
it really nicely. Sacrificing the part of you that must be sacrificed to rise to the moment.
Yeah. It's
That was
hard.
cool.
It's painful. It's really difficult to let go of familiar comforts, to let go of, like in a lot of ways, like I've started to let go of gaming.
Mm.
It's funny the place that gaming and even my favorite game, PlanetSide, occupies in my life now compared to even a year ago. It's funny how different it feels. It almost feels like if the wind blew in a certain direction, I could never play a video game again, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Um, but the wind is blowing. It's not blowing that direction. It's blowing in a different direction. And as long as that's the case, it makes sense to engage. And
Yeah.
I think I actually have a PlanetSide video coming out in a few days, just reaffirming that despite this like focus on helping people, I'm not done talking about games. It's
Good.
gonna be a fun video. I think people will get a reaction out of it of some kind.
Good, Deeg. Good. 2 days later, you came out with Isolation is a Gift.
Hang on,
And
there's one more thing I want to say.
okay.
You brought up the points from the Hard Times video about like putting away like shopping carts on the street, picking up pieces of trash that had nothing to do with, like taking responsibility for things that you wouldn't necessarily think are your fault or your responsibility to deal with. Um, I stumbled on this quote actually by Dostoevsky. I guess it's
Uh-oh.
from the Brothers
Hard
Karamazov.
Heavers.
Yeah, and I didn't realize it at the time, but that kind of feeling is inspired by this, and this is a very strange idea. I think to wrap one's mind around. Here's the quote though: "There is only one way to salvation, and that is to make yourself responsible for all men's sins. As soon as you make yourself responsible for all sincerity, for everything, and for everyone, you will see at once that this is really so, and that you are in fact to blame for everyone and for all things."
Hmm.
And I see that as that quote, if you can keep it close to you, is sort of like a practice of challenging what effect you can have on the world around you. It's like there are problems in your life that you deal with. People around you probably deal with the same problems. They might have problems that have nothing to do with you too. You might be useful in ways you don't even know yet. You might be dangerous in ways you don't even know yet. And it is easy, I think, especially in a Western culture that is in the first world, we've become so comfortable in our media consumption, in our consumptive lifestyle. I very much grew up with this idea that, in hindsight, looking back at it, I grew up with the idea that the point of life is sort of to be comfortable. Like that's what you should strive for in life. That's what's good. That led me down a dark path, man. But it's easy to find yourself in a situation that is so comfortable that change doesn't make sense. Because there's no immediate pricking need to make a change. There's nothing jabbing into your side. to say, hey, someone's going to die if you don't do something, or someone's going to get in real serious trouble if you don't do something. Instead, it's like, I might work the same job for the next 50 years if I don't do something. Oh well. At this point, I'm kind of going off the rails a little bit.
No, you're not. You're talking the immediacy of it, and the urgency.
And that idea of putting away shopping carts in the parking lot is sort of like a practice that I do to remind myself,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
dipping your toe in the ocean
out there, and I'm not yet who I'm going to be.
And that I imagine that quote also tracks somewhat closely to Jocko Willink's book, Extreme Ownership. Jocko,
I think so. I haven't read the book, but
yeah,
I've heard him do a few interviews on it.
He's was formerly, let's call it, a Navy SEAL, and just the idea that extreme ownership is the way you go about making change.
I think that sounds in alignment with that exact idea. Yeah, I think I might have actually watched an interview he did with Joe Rogan, maybe around the time that book came out.
Yeah, that one's in my watch later on YouTube.
Yeah, I used to watch a lot of Joe Rogan. Lately, I watch a lot less of him. Just been busy. Other reasons too, perhaps. But anyway, yeah, I remember what that book was really about. If I remember, his description of it was leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was how do you effectively lead people, and he gave examples of leading men in combat and what they look for, and extreme ownership. Dostoevsky would agree.
I think he would. So isolation is a gift. And you start off right off the bat talking about how you feel more isolated than you're used to being. And then you talked about what question naturally springs forth in the absence of a social contract. And that the first thing I noted there was that the gift of isolation is an invitation to connect with the self. And it's obvious to me that you're in the thick of it at this point. The full gamut of reacting, trying to figure it out, doing it all at the same time.
Trying to find the meaning in it.
Is that part still a blur? That instance when that all happened? Or there's some defining moments that you can remember clear as day?
That whole time was a blur. The whole time, the whole month from it like the layoff, my cat and my wife getting sick, the flood, a bunch of medical bills came out of nowhere. Like just like it was. It's. I hate to be too dramatic about it because I hate to say this, but this is kind of like shit that everyone deals with, right? Like this is part of being an adult. But I don't know. It all came through in a way that just made it impossible to keep being whoever I was being before that. Everything was too different. The needs of the day were too different.
Yeah, you were talking about how it was such an overwhelming urgency for you to stay present and focused, and that whatever that was helping you turn into, you didn't know, but you did know you needed to be here now, handling things.
Yeah, it's really easy to escape. Really, really easy to escape. And for me, the traditional escapes are junk food, video games, and every single time I've had a terrible thing happen to me, like what happened to me a few months ago, in the past, I've always gone to those things. Those have always been my comforts, my mainstays. Ton of examples from my past life. And I just knew that I had to give that up. I couldn't use that as a coping mechanism. I had to stay in the eye of the storm. Otherwise, I was going to get swallowed up by it. And then if I distracted myself, I was going to be putting my family in real, not physical danger, but let's say like I don't know, like not knowing where your next paycheck's going to come from is a serious problem. It's a serious problem. And a problem like that, the longer you delay it, the worse it gets. And I've been in those shoes before, and I've seen how bad it can get. And one of the guiding lights for me during this time was I cannot let that happen again.
And what was the point about making a point to talk to someone every single day? How did you manage being present in the moment all the time and making a point to talk to someone?
I just started calling people up, man. People who I would normally chat, they'd be like, "Hey, let's talk." Chat on Discord or SMS or whatever. Because I've been trying to do a better job of waking up to the part of me that is a real extrovert. I think on the extroversion introversion scale, I'm sort of in the middle. I really like being with people and I like relating to people, but I also really need my downtime, my recharge time, like introverts do. But I have a long history of really underfeeding that social part of me, really just kind of starving that part of me, and keep shoveling energy into the introvert. I think I need to just rehabilitate the sort of the story I had of myself. And the more I did it, the more unhappy I'd become. The more unhappy I'd become, the more I'd use coping mechanisms. The more I use coping mechanisms, the more weight I'd put on, the more hours I'd waste playing video games. You know? So if we're trying to avoid that, I mean, the answer sort of suggests itself.
And then you went your book of personal reminders. And at the time,
oh yeah,
the last thing you wrote was "Isolation is a gift. Use it." What have you written since, Deeg?
I got it right here.
Oh, it's the little black notebook? Okay.
I have two. So I carry these two with me in my back pocket every day. One is just notes, like stuff I want to remember, like creative ideas, stuff I have on the go that I don't want to lose track of. I think the latest note is, what is it? I got some ideas for a Guild Wars 2 video I might like to do while I was out walking the other day, so I wrote them down. But yeah, this is my book of what I call lessons. And I'm up to 40 or 50 of them.
Oh, geez.
And what I try to do is whenever I'm thinking through a difficult decision or problem or something that I've either flubbed or had success with, I try to see if I can extract an essential mode of wisdom from it, to think through it and, give me something useful. So here's one that I really like. It's very short. Be large in your yeses and small in your no's. It's about...
Do you remember what prompted that one?
Probably a conversation with my wife. Probably. So it's like, if someone asks you to do something and you want to do it, yes, let's do it. That sounds amazing. I couldn't imagine anything better. Not, yeah, okay, fine. Might as well. That's what being big in your yeses is. Being small in your nose is not being like, sorry, I wish I could. Yeah, I really just, no. Nope, other plans. Small in your yes is big. Small in your nose, big in your yeses. That's what that's about.
What was the very last one that you wrote down?
The most recent one? What is it? I forgot about this one. Don't believe the hype, especially if it's about you.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, definitely copying Marcus Aurelius on this one. His book of meditations.
That's
Although
okay.
I'm not copying him in as much as I'm sharing it.
Inspiration.
With y'all, because he kept it to himself.
It's inspiration.
Yeah, well, reminders. Life is just a ridiculously complex decision matrix, and you need all the help you can get.
Hard stuck in online games. A month later, you come up with that one. And as I said, that's the one that really prompted a lot of this for me, at least. I connected with a lot of what you said. I feel like I went through a similar journey, and if if I would thought about it, probably a lot of people go through the sort of personal journey of conflict and resurrection and refinement and purifying and sacrifice, all of that. But 24 seconds in, you talk about
Mm.
the idea that video games are things you suck your life into, time wasters that you engage in them despite this fact because we're stuck, hard stuck. That was the premise. Right out
Mm-hmm.
the gate, hard stuck. Then you talk
Mm-hmm.
about the first thing I wanted to ask you about is you talk about wounded warriors. The analogy you bring up is that there are wounded warrior communities who lean into that and
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge, yep, we're wasting tons of time. We're doing it anyways.
Badge of
And
honor. They wear it like a badge of
yeah,
honor.
and I don't know if you know, but maybe about a month ago, I interviewed the CEO and president of Veterans Gaming Mental Health, VGMH.
Oh,
She
cool.
she is a transgender female, prior service, military service, went through some very dark, troubling times in her life, and
Mm.
now heads a nonprofit, 501c3, certified and everything, of a collection of veteran gamers who waste time playing video games. But it
Uh,
doubles as a tight-knit community of people who are there for each other, who are sacrificed for each other, and just the whole story. And someone already plugged it in the chat. How fast did, but that instantly reminded me of VGMH, the
mm.
and where. So I want to go into how did that happen? Where did you start
Mm.
off with this video?
Well, I started off with being annoyed, man.
Okay.
A lot of these videos start off that way.
Do they really?
Someone was being wrong on the internet. Of course.
I don't think I've ever noticed that before for your content.
Well, I don't necessarily display my annoyance. The point of the video is to get over the annoyance. You know, it's
Wait.
just
One of them you started off with my most excellent friends. Were you annoyed, Deeg? Were you annoyed at your most excellent friends?
probably. Well, I'm not at them. Maybe. Yeah, maybe I was. Yeah, maybe I was. It's very possible. But you know, I don't know. For me, videos when I make them, this new series of videos is always like every single one of them kind of solves like a thought problem that I'm having, or attempts to solve it, contributes to solving it. Maybe this one was solving the problem of like why should people not be okay with being hard stuck in online games? Because a lot of people are okay with it. They made their peace with it. I always think of like Asmongold and the community of gamers who flock to him. Asmongold, who, by the way, I have an enormous amount of admiration for. I used to look at him and kind of be like, why does anyone look up to this guy? Why? He's a slob. He hasn't made anything. All he does is play video games all day. But the more you look into what he does, the more what he does is actually incredibly impressive. And the more his ability to actually create a persona, even if that persona is very close to who he actually is, to connect with so many people who so deeply need each other and each other's support is like incredible. It's I find it to be incredibly impressive. But the thing I always hope for the Asmongold and the communities like that is for them to start aiming up instead of aiming down. Aiming up in life instead of aiming down. And I've been in so many gaming communities. Like I've been doing online games since like 1999, man, more than 20 years, right? And I've been in so many gaming communities that at the end of the day, we're not really there to lift each other up in some ways. They were there to sort of comfort each other when they're down. That's a very different kind of thing. And I really crave that, man. I really crave a community of gamers that are there to lift each other up and support each other, whether or not that means playing a video game, and are not just there to enable each other's bad habits. You know, I think that this will probably say a little bit about where that comes from for me. when my wife and I got married, just over a decade ago, actually, just under a decade ago,
Ah,
10-year
congrats.
anniversary is coming up this summer. Thank you. The most important vow we made to each other was to grow and change. That's it. That was the most important vow. We had some other things too, but that was the really important piece because we both have this, and this is one of the things I so love about her. She's the person in the world with whom, for whom this quality is the most pronounced of anyone I've ever met. Of being so excited for what other people can be, being so excited for for the potential of the people that they meet and run into, and whose lives they co-orbit. That you so deeply want that person to actualize that possibility, whether or not it means being friends with them, whether or not it means being in a relationship with them. My wife and I have always said to each other, I want what's best for you, you want what's best for me. Even to the point of saying, even if that means that we are not together for some reason. That is something I feel so deeply that the world is our world is a flawed creation, and that those flaws bring opportunity for us to make ourselves by addressing those flaws. And there's no way to address the flaws in our world without making ourselves along the way. It's a reciprocating process, I think.
An opportunity to excel.
Yes. That's what rising to the moment is. The moment's above you, you're below where you need to be to rise to it. When you rise to it, you're elevating yourself to hit that moment. That's the mechanism. And when I see people systematically failing to rise, it is so sad to me. And failing to support each other, to be excited for each other, coping with negative feelings, enabling those things, those bad habits. It's so sad to me. I deeply want video games, the video games that I've so loved over the years, to enable these positive communities of people who lift each other up. I'm trying to make that a thing. I think it can be a thing. There are even some examples out there, like Dr. K and his Healthy Gamer. I think I might even mention him last time we talked. He's a Harvard-trained psychologist who does mental health content on gaming for gamers. And I think that, like, when I talk to somebody, like in my I don't know. I could go on about this topic. You probably better stop me and ask me another question.
No, keep. I'm right now. I have their Dr. K's website up in the stream, just showing what it is.
Yeah.
Dr. K's Guide to Mental Health: A Journey into Anxiety, Depression, Meditation, ADHD led. Explores comprehensive approaches. Design a choose your own adventure learning experience so that you can take control of your mental wellness. 100 plus video
He's done some
chapters,
pretty cool stuff.
20 years of knowledge. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that I almost feel like there's a sort of potential in the air for this idea of destigmatizing gaming through creators like Dr. K and like what I hope to be. Because there is a stigma about it. You know, I had this funny anecdote. Let me see how much of this I feel comfortable sharing. Okay, so there's this other YouTube creator. His name, he's kind of like in like what you might call the manosphere. He does content that's like, you know, man's content for men, how to be good men. And, you know, there's kind of a huge stigma attached to that. Like, you know, Andrew Tate being a huge example of where that can go wrong. People look at that and say toxic masculinity, that kind of thing. Toxic masculinity does definitely exist. That the existence of that phrase sort of implies that non-toxic masculinity exists too. And whenever I see that, I try to tunnel into it and understand it. This one creator, I think does a really good job of channeling it. And he has a community and a Discord, and I checked it out. And there was a conversation happening, and I mentioned World of Warcraft in that conversation. And the amount of people, the amount of men who reactively dogpiled on me was a huge surprise. I didn't realize it until after I thought about it, but I realized that I had sort of emitted a dog whistle for weakness among these men who are trying to figure out how to grow. There are so many, especially young men out there, women too, who have been feel that they're victims of these kinds of games. That what that's done is sort of created in some places this what's an anti-reaction called? There's a word for it.
What's an anti what?
Like a negative reaction. I can't think of a word for it. A negative reaction.
Like distaste, disgust,
I suppose, maybe disgust, sure.
disdain,
and it makes me sad that games have this reputation of being life ruiners. The World of Warcraft is sort of like this code word for destroying your life. How shitty is that, man? And I would hate for PlanetSide to be seen that way. I know it is by some people. I think we ought to do a lot better than that, man.
And so, you mentioned that you would.
That's the whole thesis of that video, the hard stuck video. That's the thesis of that video. We ought to do a lot better than that.
And
go ahead.
When you said that what you would hope to be, were you talking about the person who brings that forth, or something more specific to Dr. K?
I don't know exactly yet. I think that I have I have certain abilities, I have certain perspectives, and to the degree that content can change people's lives, I'm interested in seeing if there's a potential there. I have been using content as a vehicle for changing my life these last few years.
Yeah.
And it's been surprisingly effective. And I hope that I can bring the same kind of benefit to other people's lives as well. Because I would just hate if, as a result of my content, I got better and my viewers didn't. You know?
So it sounds like Deeg 2.0 is some method or some endpoint of your content improving gamer lives.
Yeah, let's get unstuck together.
Got it. Not only,
and that's the point of the video that I did like last week. You probably saw the getting unstuck in life. I think I called it something like that.
Yep, January 23rd.
Sort of like just like
you came out with your mission statement.
Yes, it was a mission statement. It's like, hey, here's where we're going. Here's where we're going. Buckle up. And I have the video that came out this morning where I told the story of how ADHD nearly destroyed my life. Very emotional story if you're into that kind of thing. Next week, I have a video coming out where I'm going to be sharing my 4 main lessons that helped me conquer ADHD and change my life over that time. And there's more stuff coming.
That mission statement that you talked about, you told 2 stories through it. Excuse me.
Okay.
The first one was, or you said you want to tell 2 stories about gaming and weight loss.
Yeah. I think those are the 2 most obvious payoffs of the work that I've done. And there'll be things that people can relate to. People who have struggled with their weight, people who have struggled with gaming. I've made some peace with both. In the last year, I've lost 85 pounds, and in the last 4 years, over 200.
Congratulations.
Thank you. The numbers are impressive, but to me, what's most impressive about it is that I'm no longer in pain, which I used to be every single second I was on my feet. And I no longer feel restricted in doing physical things, which I did up until last year. If someone invites you to go walking with them around downtown, you want to be able to say yes. There was a time not long ago where I had to say no to that because my body couldn't do it. I would be, even if I could make myself do it, I'd be miserable. I'd make people around me miserable, you know?
So how did you accomplish this? What was your main mechanism?
Well, I'm going to do a video where I talk about it, and I'm not really sure how to explain it yet, because no, I'm happy to think through it for a moment though. Because the truth is that the things that ended up working for me is a combination of lessons I learned in different places over the last like 5 to 10 years. Like my wife went on a keto diet for a little while, and I joined her on it, and I learned a little bit about like my food preferences by going on that. the chicken salad that I ate for lunch every day now is kind of a result of going on keto with her and trying to figure that out. Getting off of sandwiches, getting off of fried food, stuff like that. Um, how to deal with binge eating in the evenings, which used to be my go-to comfort mechanism.
Mm.
And this is actually the third lesson for the video that I'm putting out next week about how I conquered ADHD. It's don't quit your bad habits, compete with them. So I had the bad habit of binge eating in the evenings, ruining whatever progress I'd made during the day, and wrecking my sleep, by the way. And so I couldn't figure out how to deal with the problem. Eventually, what I settled on, I had a little experiment where I started doing more streaming last year. And I realized that when I streamed in the evenings, just playing PlanetSide or whatever game I'm playing, I didn't eat. And I didn't feel the need to eat food. I was like, oh shit. I can crowd out my bad habit by replacing it with one that is even better. That is a better habit. And now, a year later, I don't even need to stream to not eat because I'm so out of the habit of binge eating that it's just not a risk for me now. But I just have grown to love streaming in the evenings. I think it's so fun to connect with people real time that way.
Yeah, like just last night, I think it was last night, you were playing World of Warcraft and you were narrating. I remember some time ago you explained why you did that. It was part of your telling the story of both people and the story of the world that you were in.
Yeah, I think that it's very easy to play a game like World of Warcraft where you skip all the quest text.
Yeah,
and you're just focused on the outcomes, the outcome driven. I think you miss a lot of the human parts of the game by doing that, and so I try to emphasize that. And I do dumb voices like stupid dwarf voices. I do dumb Tauren voices. Gnome voices are really fun to do. Goblins. But I think I'm done with World of Warcraft, man.
Think so?
I think yesterday was probably my last session with that game ever.
You did seem a little bit. I remember watching you for a few moments. You kept saying like, "I don't want to be here. I don't want to be doing this."
Yeah, I kind of had to force myself to do it because I enjoyed the time that I spent.
Save the world from the bad man.
Yeah, so Dragonflight is the name of the newest expansion.
It was like a time lapse thing or something. Time crystal.
Yeah. So. Yeah, like the whole time travel stuff in this game is a little, I don't know, it's a little, whatever. I'm trying to think about it too hard. But essentially, I started a World of Warcraft experiment in 2019 when WoW Classic came out, where I was like, I haven't touched WoW in over a decade. What did I get out of this game? Because in a lot of ways, I was still acting out with other games what I was trying to get out of WoW all those years ago. Like, I hadn't really broken the cycle. I was still stuck in that cycle of trying to find community and meaning through these online gaming worlds. I was like, let's just see what WoW Classic is. Like, let's just put it through the lens of today. And I learned some stuff by doing that. I was like, oh, okay. Put it away. Go do other stuff. And then a World of Warcraft retail expansion comes out. So the current bleeding edge of the game, not a republishing of the original. I was like, I haven't touched the current version of World of Warcraft in over a decade. I wonder what it's turned into, what it's become, right? And so I played the Shadowlands expansion with my MMO buddy, and kind of tried to learn what that was about. Got done with it, put it away. Okay, done. And now the latest expansion, Dragonflight, came out, and it's supposed to, what it's meant to do is to kind of get back to a core World of Warcraft experience for the existing fan base that has become sort of disenchanted with some of the gimmicky things that they've tried over the years to get people to engage more with the game. Stripping it back to just what's core World of Warcraft, bringing back some of the old class complexity that over the time was smoothed out of the game. And the result of that is the best and worst thing about this expansion is that it's just World of Warcraft.
Gotcha.
And I think I've learned everything I need to learn from it at this point. I'm going to do a video about it probably.
Sweet.
But yeah, I was like 2 or 3 hours away from finishing the leveling up campaign, and I was like, if I don't go back and finish this campaign, I am gonna regret it. So I had a handful of hours on a Sunday afternoon. I was like, let's just do this. Very
What's up,
long answer to your
Pale?
question.
Pale's in the chat.
Oh, what's up? What's up, PaleTiger?
So back to hard stuck. Took a little getting unstuck in life detour.
Yeah.
The first thing I noted was you said this earlier. Not only should games not be harmful to you, but that they should be a benefit to games. And it sounds like for WoW at least, the benefit was what you had learned, and you think that's now run its course.
I think so. I hope so. The idea of games being useful to people is a kind of an elemental idea. I'm not really sure how it applies to video games yet. I'm actually still trying to learn that. One of the key things is to not stay longer than you need to. So knowing when you're done is
Saying you're welcome.
is an important thing. Yeah, and I've done that many times. There's actually this great the very last Twitch stream I did in 2021. I was trying to go I had tried the Amazon Games MMO called New World. You might have heard of it.
I've seen you play a little bit. That was one of the reasons why I just didn't play it, because I saw what it was. I'm like, eh.
You're probably right. If you saw it and you didn't like what was there, you probably made the right decision.
I watched Archie play it. I watched you play it, and I was like, okay.
Oh, Archie is still hitting that so hard.
He is. He's hardcore. He's a true believer.
Good for him, man. I'm glad he's still doing his thing. So the last stream of 2021, I was just like, I was trying to get something out of the game. I was like, I need to get something. I feel bad. I need to like give myself a feeling that I need to feel better. And I just had this fantasy in my head of like getting into an MMO game and like chatting with people and kind of bantering around and playing, going back and forth. And I just logged in, and I got myself into a situation where I was getting farmed by people in the open world. It's the PlanetSide equivalent of getting farmed in a fight, basically. And I was so angry. I got so pissed, man. I got so pissed. I rage quit. But just before I did, I had a moment of clarity. And I was just like, you know what? This whole time I've been blaming these people for being assholes to me, but it's not really their fault. It's my fault for showing up here and letting them be assholes to me. I can make a different decision.
That's extreme ownership.
Yes. Yeah.
When you make it your fault, you suddenly realize that it is. Then you can be doing something about it.
Yes, and the cool thing about that philosophy is it's a philosophy of agency. It means if there's a problem, you can do something about it, as opposed to like a more of like a victimhood philosophy, where it's like you're sort of the hapless prey for the problems of the world.
That's something I connect with on a very deep level, and it served me well. I think ever since I started really implementing that in my life. When it comes to
man, I'm curious. Can I ask?
Go ahead, yeah.
How have you implemented extreme ownership in your life? Give me an example.
We will touch on when we start talking about the doxing thing. When we start talking about integrating your real life into your gamer life, I made that decision probably about 6 years ago. And it was in a transition period, not unlike, unlike in that I didn't have an urgency as much as you did, but I went through an extreme period of trial where I sacrificed the parts that needed to be sacrificed, and the part that I sacrificed was how much I cared about fearing. What's a good way to say it? I was afraid to put my name to anything. I was afraid to take, to get any thanks, any glory. Kind of like the silent acceptance type. You do your job, and just the fact that you did the job is the reward versus the accolades and all that.
You're afraid of recognition.
I'd say afraid is probably a fine term. Yeah.
Okay.
It to me appeared the opposite of humble, so bragging, and I was very afraid of what sort of like pride becometh before the fall sort of situation,
Okay.
to an unhealthy level. So I made the decision before I started the cryptocurrency videos that garnered a lot of attention that ended
You
up
got a
getting
lot
me
of views out of
hacked.
those, man.
Hmm?
They got you hacked?
Oh yeah. Oh, it was hacked. People pretend to be me, called my mom, had like role
Holy
played
shit.
someone beside them, screaming out in pain that I was being tortured. It was like a whole like
Crap.
the FBI got involved.
Dude,
It was a whole thing.
what the? No way.
Yeah, I got hacked. And then what's crazy about it is my hacker called me not long after, and we had a conversation. So it was just like
That's surreal.
it was cool. It was insane. Like I said, I kind of lean into conflict, so me talking with the person who hacked me and did all that stuff,
Yeah.
I was like, "Hey man, you know that was pretty messed up what you did to my mom." What they didn't expect is that when they started like, you know, he was yelling and then his roleplay buddy was screaming. He was like, "I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill him unless you give me all that Bitcoin." And first of all, my mom doesn't know what Bitcoin is.
Asking the wrong person.
Second of all, you picked the wrong mom because as soon as she started hearing that, she started like screaming prayer at him. She like, "This Lord, please be with my son," and be like,
She wrote you off, man. Oh my god.
she didn't know what else to do, so she started
Yeah,
praying at
okay.
him, and that threw him off his game. He wasn't expecting to get prayed at by the person he's trying to extort from my Bitcoin. Yeah, it was an interesting experience. He ended up getting nothing because there wasn't much to steal, so that just, you know, it's not worth it in the end. But we had a conversation, probably about an hour and a half long conversation about why he does it. Why does he do what he does? And just, you know,
What did you
understanding the
find out
mind
from
of it
that?
all. It almost reminds me of that time when Cyrious did the interview of the hacker. That was kind of like that.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. So that was like some very trying times, and if you didn't know, I was like a fact checker for cryptocurrencies back in the rise of uh, the early days of the hype, where like the lending platforms, the
Mm,
most famous of which was BitConnect.
right.
They all got indicted by the SEC, and one of them just got sentenced a few days ago to jail. Because I had a lot of money that I had put in there riding off the wave of success during that time. I was in a lot of the VIP circles.
Mm,
A lot like the whole Bitcoin guy. Like I was in those circles because of how much money I
okay.
was putting in. But I was a fact checker. I would do fact checking videos. I had like a very detailed accounting spreadsheet to show like, here's what they said I was going to get. Here's what I'm actually getting. Please be aware that this is what's happening before it hits your bank
Mhm.
account. Like that's what I was. So I didn't get indicted by the SEC because I wasn't peddling. I wasn't promoting through like referrals, and that's where a lot of them got in trouble, like the kickbacks.
Mm,
But
mm.
that period coincided with like a kind of like a personal revelation that I was leaning too far into my mentality of the things I already described. So those two came together to form a perfect storm, and I sacrificed my what I would call my pride on all that. I
Mm.
sacrificed feeling afraid to be seen and spotlighted, and that's when I started integrating myself into my gaming life.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, a long road, a long drawn out discussion or talk, just to say I see where you and I it went about a different way, you and I circumstances,
Mhm,
but I see the same
mhm.
journey.
Taking responsibility for the way people see you.
Yep. And now that's
Mm,
what I do. It's all I do. I sometimes wonder now if I'm going too far into it, leaning
mhm.
too hard into even that. But I take extreme ownership, and I really like the results.
Yeah, man. I guess that's the pitfall of extreme ownership is you gotta keep your eyes open, keep your ear to the ground, make sure you're not missing something that you need to hear.
Yeah, what I'm starting to figure out. So it's about 5, 6 years ago, I started taking extreme ownership of things, and I'm starting to suspect that that the way I'm leaning into this too hard is like today, when I did the Dr. Moneypants thing, and I posted it yesterday or the day before, and just the reaction. Some of it good, a lot of it was like, why are you platforming this guy? And
Right.
I would have discussions, and we're having them right now in Reddit, where I posted on the
Mhm.
PlanetSide subreddit, it suddenly occurred to me like some of these discussions are your typical Reddit discussions, like you're an effing retard, and like just quoting verbatim sort of
Low
stuff.
quality stuff. Yeah.
Hmm?
Low quality stuff.
Right.
Chaff.
Low resolution, low quality. And then the more I engage with them, the higher resolution and the higher quality,
Right.
and that sort
Right.
of thing.
Right.
It tends to emerge. But I'm starting to suspect that I'm
It's
doing
hard
that.
to engage with your critics, man. That's the act of
Oh,
a
I
real
love it.
self-possessed person.
I love it. I enjoy engaging just to see what happens. I mean, they're allowed. The way I look at it is, there are allowed to be disagreements. People are allowed to think that I'm stupid. That's fine. I'm allowed to be doing what I'm doing. It's though that tension is allowed to exist, and it doesn't have to
Mhm.
have resolution. However, where I think I'm leaning too hard is that I seek that in almost everything, to the point of it. Um, what's it called when like desensitized, I guess is a word.
Okay.
It's still emerging in my brain, but I'm starting to notice that these discussions, these pursuits of extreme ownership, are yielding diminishing returns, and I haven't quite figured out why that is. The
Hmm.
concept of diminishing returns with that is odd to me. I didn't expect it.
Diminishing returns, going too hard. Let me think about that for a second. I think, like, philosophically, I understand it, even if I can't exactly relate it to what you told me. But um, extreme ownership sort of is based on the idea that you can have a positive effect on things, right? And that things that are going on around you are something that you can have an impact on. If there's something that's happening to you that's not good, if your door is creaking, um, if your neighbor's dog won't shut up, um, if your wife won't put her dirty dishes in the dishwasher, that's your fault. The things that annoy you are your fault. That's the idea of extreme ownership, right? Um, but what that's engaged in essentially is the active agency of projecting your will, what's inside of you, upon your environment, upon the world around you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Agreed.
if you get too focused on taking what's within you and bringing it out, you can sometimes obscure what the world is trying to imprint upon you. Maybe there's something that you need to learn, Lanzer.
That's an interesting posit. Processing. Because it does feel like, and this is the feeling that really set me into the suspicion mode, is it feels like the same thing that when I eat too much of a good thing. Like the taste doesn't feel, like zebra cakes. If I
Sure.
eat if I eat more than one zebra cake, like the taste of the delicious zebra cake,
Yeah.
just it's not there
The first
anymore.
one. Number two.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The second one, I don't know about that. So that's what it feels like. Like if I'm in a mood, I'm in like a mood for dubstep. Too much dubstep and I'm no longer in the mood. That's what it feels like. Like oversaturation. And I can't figure out what the source is.
Too much.
And maybe I need to kind of internalize what you said a little bit more about. Maybe it's because I'm too much output and not any input.
Could be.
Because it's an
Could be
excessive
all
amount
work
of
and no
output.
play makes Lanzer a dull boy.
Yeah, I'm starting. That might be. I need to start thinking about that, because it is an
Mhm.
excessive amount of output that I've leaned into. Like
Mhm.
everything I'm owning. I own my attitude. I own what I think about my attitude. When people annoy me, it's like they have
a
a
lot of
right to
work.
do that if they want to. Now, what am I doing about it? It's always about like, what am I doing about it? And
Right. I have a
so,
lesson for you, if you can
do it.
believe that. Let me see if I can find it.
Pulling
Keep
out
talking
your
for a second.
book of wonders.
I try not to do this to people. This seems like a very douchey thing, but I figured
No, no,
you'd be
no,
open.
no. I don't think so. I don't think so. Hit it. Hit me with
Okay.
it. You talk
Okay.
to me, Goose.
I gotta find it. There's like 50 of these.
Pale said he got rid of his dreams. They got in his way. Interesting, Pale. What happened there?
Sounds like he sacrificed a part of himself to move on.
Sounds like he did. I remember, who was it? Someone was talking about how they had a conversation with Pale about 6 months ago, a year ago, in TeamSpeak, and how it became incredibly real. How Pale discussed some very personal things in an open forum, and that person thought the world of Pale. That, whereas before they didn't think much of him. I don't think they were a big fan, but he won them over by being as real as it got, talking about some when you spoke in one of your videos how every person's dealing with one or two serious things. Pale just came right out in that TeamSpeak and just, someone asked him like, hey, how you doing, Pale? And he's like, went into it.
Not good.
Not good. Right.
Yeah.
And they got way more than they bargained for. And that person who was listening thought, wow, that went from 0 to 50 to 80 to 100 real fast. and they came out away with it with a different perspective, a human experience sort of thing. Anyways, sidetrack there, but it reminded me of that.
Funny you say that. When I joined Pale for his ops night, and I was doing a project last year for Outfit Wars. It didn't end up becoming a thing because you know my house got flooded and everything else. But I was going to do like a sort of retrospective of Outfit Wars, piecing together what I learned from interviews with a lot of outfit leaders. And Pale's one of the people I approached. And I had a similar experience like that, sitting in his platoon and be like, you know what? I see Pale differently after this experience. And positively, more positively than I did before. Anyway, I have the lesson.
Okay,
ready for you. To help you, maybe, you tell me if it helps, with the sense of going too hard, of working too hard, too much output. Here it is. It's not always about you or the things that you do. Don't always analyze, taxonomize, and judge. Spend time simply being. Allow the good to enter in. Don't alienate yourself from it.
Allow good to improve you. Don't alienate. Where did that come from? What's the source of that?
It's when I was working too hard, man. Solving all the problems that were around me. I got into a habit of working really hard, of not giving myself downtime, of not giving myself time to relax, to play. And I found myself getting bitter and getting hardened and becoming inaccessible and distant from people, even from myself. And I realized that I was making the mistake of thinking that everything around me was my responsibility, that it was all about me. When in some sense it is, the Dostoevsky quote we talked about, but we also have to let go of it sometimes in order to bring ourselves back up to normal. So that's where that came from. It's not always about the things that you do. Oh, probably like a month or 6 weeks ago.
Oh, dang.
Like
okay.
Sometime in December that I wrote this down.
Right when that perfect storm happened, there was almost a 2.5 year period where I went to like deep intellectual mode, and I started studying meditation, not just the Western but the Eastern version, and I started watching a lot of the Yale lectures that they post, like whole semesters worth of philosophy lectures and just hours of full semesters worth of stuff. And then Alan Watts, who interprets a lot of Eastern philosophy, I have listened to everything of him. I bought the whole collection, and I just spent a year and a half studying meditation, and then I practiced it for a little while, to both Western and Eastern forms, to just see what would happen. And that's when the end of that was the perfect storm, that where I sacrificed, I would call it, what I feared about being targeted, doxing, being hacked, which coincidentally I got hacked not long after that. So
apparently just an attractive target. Hey, I gotta close my door real quick. One
Yeah.
second. The cat
Hey,
was gonna-
let's do a 30-second intermission. And we'll be right back.
Cool.
All right, we're back. We're back. And what we were just talking about though was conflict, right? So
Conflict.
you said
You were sharing with me, and I said that this needs to go in the actual podcast. You were saying to me that you're sharing with me the anecdote about Anethual. and about how our conversation reminds you of the one you had with him, and about how that got started. So tell the story.
Well, back when Shock was still doing his thing, and I think he just tweeted he's back. But in any case, back when Shock was riding
Not
high
back
on
to PlanetSide, surely. Is he back to PlanetSide?
I think that's what he said. Back to PlanetSide, and I tweeted at him and said, "Welcome back." He didn't say anything back to me yet.
Okay.
Anyways, back when Shock was riding high on Partner Club sort of wave, I was in his chat, and he had his podcast with Aeflic and Lex, and I remember saying something in opposition to what he had said, and I couldn't type my arguments fast enough, and he hit the ban hammer on me, right? Yeeted me out, and spent like, after they had left, he spent like 40 minutes just dogging me. Wouldn't use my name, but everyone knows he was talking about the guy who said that I quit PlanetSide after I got Partner, and that's not what I said. Shock, you didn't let me finish, Kanye. Anyways, he yeeted me out, and after that, I had no other way to connect to him because he opened my DMs on his stream and hit block on Discord, so I didn't have any other way. So I tweeted at him. I said, "Hey man, what you did wasn't cool. Can we talk? Let's build the game up. Let's work out in the community." Didn't respond back to me, but Anethual did. And at first, Anethual, his responses were intense, but I engaged with them.
Intensely positive, right?
What's that?
Intensely positive, right?
Sure. It was intensely critical. Let's put it that way. It was intensely critical, and you know, for what it's worth, he had his perspective. I'm not going to disagree with him. And we just started talking on Twitter, and eventually got to the point where I said, "Hey, man, come on the show. Let's talk." And we did. And it's still, I think in my PlanetSide Central interview that I did last week with the PlanetSide Central people, I still rank it as one of my favorite StratSides. It wasn't confrontational. It was just a talk between two people, and it was so much fun. I so enjoyed it. But the most colorful was Lex. So much that was conflict. But also I
love that conversation.
I think it came from a place of mutual respect. I respect Lex immensely, and
that's the only way that can happen is if you. The heart of conversation, the heart of the dialogos, is the idea of I can learn something from the person who I'm talking to. If you don't go into it with that idea, you can't have a real conversation. And
that might be the defining fact about what you were saying. How it's so. You were saying it was so hard to do that. Why people think it's so hard because of that tension and that it devolves into I see it all as an opportunity to learn. I assume that the person I'm talking to has something to teach me, and even if they don't, I have no expectation that they do. And so I think that kind of gives me an out if the conversation goes next to nowhere and it never goes from low resolution to high resolution. It's like, it doesn't have to. They don't owe me nothing. Anethual owed me nothing. He could have told me, middle finger, go pound sand, but he didn't. He said, "Hey, all right, let's do it," and we had an awesome talk. It was so much fun.
That's cool, man.
It wasn't even conflict. It was just people.
Isn't it interesting how when you expose negative emotions to a patient conversation, how things tend to get a lot more human and a lot less mean?
Yeah, I share your wife's perspective of seeing the potential. It excites me to see what that potential could be. It excites me to see what Shock's potential could be, despite all the baggage and drama that exists between us. He says he barely thinks of me, whatever. But I took what he did personally. He's giving
me the same treatment for stuff too. I wouldn't take it.
I know.
Personally. Yeah.
I was there when he said
Shoctorr's got a high ceiling. I really believe in that guy. I think he's going to go a long way in life.
We'll see.
I think he will. I think you will too.
Thanks, I appreciate it. I have no doubt, but he tends to sacrifice his relationships for I don't know what it is. I haven't quite figured it out, but
yeah, I've seen that too.
I watched him in real time go from I like Shoctorr to I don't know about you, and that's when you donated to him right during that stream. It was that one. Yeah, you gave him like a sub or something, and you said, "Hey man, no hard feelings," and you subbed to him. Right. But I watched that in real time. I was one of the viewers. I was banned, but I watched it. And I was like, man,
Do you know the story behind that?
You were talking to Cyrious about his late breaking comment about Shoctorr. He said
Yes,
some
so
very colorful
Cyrious-
things at the end of a video.
For anyone who doesn't know, I'll try to say this quickly. Cyrious did a piece of content, and at the end of it, he just sucker punched Shoctorr at the end of it. Like, just absolutely sucker punched the shit out of him. Sorry for swearing. If you're
It's
cool
okay.
with that.
It's no big deal.
It was a low blow and completely inappropriate, I think.
And it was like
So
fourth quarter
I was
comment too.
Yeah, and I really like Cyrious, and I really like Shoctorr, and that was painful for me to see. So I was going to interview Cyrious anyway, just like a PlanetSide interview, and then we were talking, and I just realized like I can't like let this beef, like this silly beef, like come on, can we? And I just talked to Cyrious about it, and I just asked him if he'd apologize to Shoctorr, like if he would out loud on the podcast apologize to Shoctorr. For me, that felt insanely confrontational. It's hard for me to do, but it felt like the right thing too. He did apologize. I think it's been pretty cool between them since then, but I'm not sure. And then
no. Shoctorr had a reaction video to it.
Yeah, Shoctorr saw exactly. So this is the next thing. Shoctorr
wasn't
saw
flattering.
this, and he sort of had the idea that I was trying to gain attention or social media benefit from their conflict.
Resurrect something. Yeah.
Which is an interesting sort of projection, I think, because I mean, I don't generally do content that like the content I make is for me. If I wanted to make content that was going to set the world on fire, I would do something very different. I'm trying to do more of that this year, but anyway, at that time, and yeah, Shoctorr got very cold to me.
Yep.
He thought I was using him because he still, I think, felt very sore about what Cyrious did to him. And
I was watching a
he's gonna figure it
stream.
out.
I was watching a
Shock's gonna figure it
stream while you were doing that, and someone alerted him to what was happening. He watched it, or a little bit of it, and then by the time you came in the stream, I was still bystander. I saw that transformation happen. He got pretty upset that you had resurrected that, and I think you nailed it. There was a bit of embarrassment, maybe. I don't know.
I think I still consider Shock to be a friend. Like whatever the reason behind the way he reacted, like it's all water under the bridge for me. I hope to have him back on the podcast again sometime, especially if he comes back to PlanetSide.
Yeah. I'd like to have him on too.
For me, it's no harm done, but it's just like let's confront the problem. Let's be friends.
I'd like to do that too. I still have an open invitation, Shock. I'll go on your show. You come on mine. Whatever, man. Just, I'm in it for the game. I'm in it selfishly in some cases. Like you said, your podcast. I like doing this. I do this for me, and also because I like you, Deeg. I think you have great potential, and you're also doing it. It's, I mean, to those who do it are owed the benefit of the doubt. I'm butchering that quote, but it's an old one.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not ever going to take away the stuff that he did.
And that's one of the huge.
I did take it personally.
It's like, no matter what he's done, no matter what interactions he's had, like the dude did something in terms of streaming PlanetSide too that no one's ever done before. Maybe no one else will ever do. It was an incredible achievement, and what he did was an incredibly high quality streaming product. Like he just killed it, man. There's a lot to learn from what Shoctorr did right during that time, and Kairi's coming back is pretty exciting. So I'll be curious to see what unfolds.
Yeah, me too. Come on, Shock, just let's talk, man. Talk to me, Goose. Talk to me. That's it. That's all it takes. It's not trap. I'm not here to sucker punch you. I did take it personally. I'll admit it. But I'd like to get past it to where we're both working toward the benefit of the game, the community, and just building instead of tearing down. That's what I'm after.
I'm assuming there's someone in your Twitch chat right now that's reporting this to Shoctorr.
Hopefully. Do it. Report away.
So what were we talking about?
So we were talking about, we were just about to go into how you didn't feel that you cared about class balance. You cared about the story, the narrative, and I think that about that time
sure.
is. Yeah, go ahead.
Which video was that? Was that the hard stuff?
That was the hard stuck. About 5 minutes in, narrative is about meaning, and meaning is how to be within the world.
Yeah. Well, that's a very. I think that's true. It's a little frou-frou, but I think that's true.
I get it. I'm with you on it.
The point of that, sharing that, was to try to show a practice of identifying what is of value to me within the game. And like that's what I identified as I was I don't know what I was talking about, but like I played the World of Warcraft expansion. I shared that story with you, the Dragonflight expansion. And I did almost no class exploration whatsoever. I didn't tinker with builds and stuff like that. I just went there to experience what I cared about and then left all the rest. The heart of it is just trying to be self-knowledgeable enough so that you can actually not be taken advantage of by the game.
Yeah, your preamble to that was the whole reason you did the podcast in 2020 on Basement Side was because you were in a rut. And when you did those things, you were closer to the person of who you were.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I was trying to get something. I was trying to get somewhere. Again, the idea that speech is thought. And when you have a conversation, it's two people thinking at the same time. I think that's pretty powerful, man.
Yeah.
And I really needed some help. I needed to figure things out. I was like you said, I was really in a rut, and didn't know how to get out of it. I'd tried quitting games plenty of times, and I always came back. I'd gone on many diets in my life. They always eventually I couldn't keep up with them. So what's the alternative to all this? Well, just start figuring out the things that work, do more of that, try to crowd out the stuff that doesn't work.
Good for you, man.
I guess.
Good for you. I'm so excited for you.
Thanks, man.
So I also found that was another quote that I had bolded. That I don't feel like I care about balance either. Where you care about story, though, I care about like the direct experience. And I think when I was doing PSB and Server Smash, I had Redolent and I created something called the Fairness Doctrine, and it eventually was a victim of its own success. It started out as one sentence and ended up being this codex toward the end of what I would call the fall of it, where it collapsed under its own weight. But to me, I think when I introspected on what you said, for me, it rang true that experience is about connection. I'm big into connection. Like the beef between Shoctorr and I, whether he knows it or not, I feel like there's a broken connection, and I'd like that to be healthy again.
Yeah.
You know, even if we don't agree,
definitely.
dude, that's fine. I don't have to like what you do, but I want there to be a connection, because it's like a web, and when the web is healthy, like whatever you're doing, you're churning, you're killing it. But when there's like that dysfunction, it just, I don't know, it gums up, to turn a phrase from Pill. It just gums up the game, man. But I care about the experience and the connection, and how that connection unfolds. So fairness to me is a comment on that connection that I see in PlanetSide 2, between the outfits, the game balance, whatever it may be.
Trying to facilitate that.
Yeah, and to me, class is incidental. It's just incidental to the experience, but how it connects to someone's experience and their connection, that's when I start to care about it. Yeah, just an interesting side I had when I was thinking about it.
Sounds like you related to that process of winnowing out what it is about the experience that matters. I like what you shared about the connection. Like, I definitely relate to that myself. But not caring about class stuff. Like, like you've probably seen the way I play PlanetSide. Like, I found something that works. I basically just stick with it.
This is what you do. I've sitting here and watched. This is what you're like chilling, almost like low rider, kind of like low rider rides a little lower, like that. And you're sitting here like just clicking. I'm seeing your light solding from like rooftop to rooftop, and you're just like, I wonder what that guy's thinking about. He just tried to knife the wall. It's like you're just like
Well,
It's
I'm gonna to understand human nature, you have to observe it. You know,
and it's just like,
I think
huh,
that
that guy just ran right by me. I wonder if I should kill him. Let's just. He seems to be vibing. He seems to be doing okay.
let's just keep rolling. It's all good.
Yeah,
We're happy here.
yeah,
You know,
it's
I think
interesting.
that's for me. That's one of the coolest payoffs of a game like PlanetSide is the weirdness, the weirdness of human stuff that can come out. Like when every single interaction you have ends with a one-on-one firefight. Like that, from a human perspective, like it's kind of boring. Um, even though from like a skills and a mastery perspective, it's like the most thrilling, dense way to
Hmm.
iterate on your ability. But like weird shit and PlanetSide just go hand in hand. That's one of the
Yeah,
things I
like
love about it
that.
so
You,
much.
you said the human narratives that play out as others engage.
Yeah, yeah. The other day, last night when I was playing on Connery, um, someone named like your mom's attack helicopter and a Valkyrie just mowing down infantry and a Valkyrie in this Osher fight. He must have wrecked me like 2 or 3 times. Mom, come on! Like, but that and I don't know. Like, I think PlanetSide tends to bring that out because it has this sort of open-endedness, and yeah, there are alerts and directives and stuff, but like, there's a lot of room to make the experience what you want compared to some other games, especially lobby shooters.
Yeah.
And I think that's so cool.
There was a story I remember. I don't remember who it was. I don't remember when. It must have been years ago. I was in a Vanguard. He or she was in a Prowler. And I don't remember the circumstances, what continent, but somehow we were fighting each other, but we were low on health and we accidentally collided, right? But we both had the same idea that we were just going to torpedo our burning tank into the other, and we got out at the last second. The tanks collide, they both blow up. We're sitting there standing at each other, staring each other in the face. Like, we could gun each other down any second, but we both understood that,
He's kind of gave a nod.
yep, we gave each other the
That was
PlanetSide
cool.
crouch, and then we walked away.
Yeah, man. That's what it's all about. It's like, I see you. I see you.
Yep. Oh gosh. That indirectly
That's the
reminds
good
me of the
stuff.
time a few weeks ago that I lost 3 Colossuses in 1 hour. It was
Oh.
it was a particularly it was okay. If you're watching, I think it was the wild cards, TWC2. They made a Reddit post about it on Connery's subreddit. But
Oh, I saw that.
yeah,
What that was about.
that was me. We were on
Oh.
Hassan, and I was on my new laptop, so I wasn't very good at, like, I hadn't quite got all the keys down, so I made some pretty
Sure.
big blunders in that Colossus, but I was like, no, I'm gonna finish this. We're gonna do this. And I ended up burning 3 Colossus, but that last one,
Ah.
they trekked all the way across on TR front to Gal drop 12, or the VS front to Gal drop 12 TR maxes on top of me, so I don't count that one. TW, I don't count that one. You came after me on the opposite end of the map. No.
That's a grudge.
Yeah,
That's a
it was.
grudge right
But
there.
it's because, I mean, I was Skyland spattering them at first, so then they're like, oh, we're gonna get this guy. And they came out, and I hit the wrong button. Like, I jumped out of my tank, and then the physics carried it forward. I jumped back in, but that time was too late. Second time, they tried to
Yeah.
bum rush me from the left-hand side, and so I saw them, and I turned my gunners, and I'm like, get them. But I only had one gunner. So I tried to run them over, and then I go up the hill, I turn around, and I didn't realize that half of them had already crossed into the foliage, so they're coming up on my right. I didn't have radar on, so I didn't see them. And I was just like, it was like chicken shooting the rest of them, where they're all in the middle of the field. But by the time I realized that the other half were on my right, it was too late. That was my second one gone. And the third one, they gal dropped on me on the opposite end. So, well played. Well played.
You know what? That makes me think of what you were describing earlier, the process of going too hard. You know, of
Yeah.
focusing too hard on like what you're trying to do and stuff like that. Like, that's the world giving you feedback, man. It's a good story. It's a good story, but that's the world giving you feedback.
Yeah.
I
I'm
like
gonna have to
for
think
me,
about that deeply.
it plays out when I'm on a death streak at some random base, and I'm like, "Ah, these people are playing wrong, and they're being assholes, and I hate this, and why is the base like this, and why are heavy assault shields, blah blah blah," you know. But it's like, you know what? Like, maybe game's trying to tell me something. Maybe I need to do something different or leave.
Yeah, you had also said that you could get really good at damage with an axe, but you've done that before and it never made you happy. So that's where you were talking about. That's why I say this stuff out loud while I imitate gnomes and dwarfs.
Yes, exactly. Great example of that would be actually the last time I really tried to act that out. Probably was, I think it was in 2019. It was when I was trying to get into Bushido Way, Emerald VS, and I was in their feeder outfit, their like training outfit. And I was playing with him every day, and I was focused on getting better and stuff like that. Like at my best, I'm like I don't know, like at my best, I'm like a 2 KD, 1 KPM, like light assault. Like my very best. Like I occasionally get over 900 IVI, but not very often. Like I'm nothing special, you know? But I really wanted to try to act out this feeling of like the way to get more out of the game is to be better at it, to be a better shooter, to be a better mover, to be mechanically more whatever. And I got to a point with that where I couldn't go any harder. I was up against my limits in terms of time I could spend, and I just wasn't able to keep up. What these other people were doing with either a lot more time or just a lot more native ability, whatever it was. And I was just like, I can't do this. I gotta let go of it. I remember actually messaging, I think it was Madman, one of the leaders of B-Way at the time, telling him that I gotta shove off from this.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with you guys, but I gotta find something else to be good at. And not that long later, podcast. So
wow. Okay. Nice little full circle.
I think that was the timeline. I might be misremembering when things happened exactly, but that's about right.
That's not unlike my departure from PlanetSide battles. I just couldn't keep up with the server smashes at the time. And we were at like server smash 50 or something like that, 40, 50. We had done a lot.
A little work.
But it was pretty much my full-time job, and I owned a business, and I worked full-time. It was the whole thing. Anyways, yeah, I ended up being like saying to myself, I can't keep up. I can't keep up with them young whippersnappers anymore, and I need to be good at something else.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Like there's a time. To that. I think that there's a time in life for us gamers where it makes sense to try to get really mechanically good, like to be a really good player, the best player you can be. And like I mentioned in the anecdote, but being good with doing damage with an axe, that sort of is about my MMO experience. World of Warcraft, Guild Wars, stuff like that. But there's an art to life, I think. Like we're meant to grow and change and be focused on different things as we progress, we move along. And it's okay to grow out of a need to be very mechanically good to continue games, and to use that experience to mine it, to learn from it, to not forget it, but not be stuck in it.
Yeah, Lex and I talked at one point that I grew up in the 360 no scope era. Like Halo 1, sniper rifles without scope was the thing to do. It's just, yeah, and I would say, I think I could objectively say that I was very skilled at it.
Okay.
You know, all the old gamer names like Widowmaker 69 and like
yeah, man, XXX.
Yeah, and it's at some point I just said, what am I doing? It's time to do something else. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's the moment. That's the moment.
So then we get to one of my. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, man, you go.
We get to my favorite part of the video at 7 minutes in. You start talking about integrating the self, and I was like, I have got to talk to you about this, because this to me is what it's all about. The road that you're on, the road that I'm on, and first of all, I think we are the first generation to have encountered this. The old AIM AOL chat rooms where like you know, the whole ASL thing and trying to hide your identity and don't say where you are or else you might get, you know,
Internet strangers.
You might get got. And So that was the beginning of the internet, which was fear, mistrust, protection, shield, McAfee, Norton antivirus, the whole nine. And
Oh God.
now we're getting to a place where it's just different. Well,
Yeah.
what is the argument against? And this was rhetorical in my brain when I decided to implement my own real self into my gaming life, which was
Mhm.
what value am I deriving from this? What value do I derive from integrating myself? I felt more of who I was when I could say in my online videos, like, hey, my name's Shane, my online name is Lanzer. This is what I
Right.
do for a living. And it's not like, here's what I am, here's my resume. It's like in casual conversation, it comes up. So instead of
Yeah.
blocking my brain from talking about it, now it completes the conversation. It engages in the flow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I'm not sure how it felt for you, but I'll tell you how it felt for me. It felt like a real deep need to turn something that I'd always felt was a weakness into a strength.
That's interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, I mean,
Weakness.
so I'm turning 40 years old this year, born in '83. And for me, I grew up always with the messaging that I would grow out of games.
Me too.
That they were something that they're meant for kids, and you to grow out of it. And it was really not okay to be an adult playing video games. It was seen as very, very strange, very wrong, you know. Um, and for me, video games were the only thing that kept me alive for a bunch of years as my life was falling apart. Did a video about that today, by the way. Turns out I had ADHD and didn't know it. But anyway, I digress.
I saw some of that before we started.
Yeah, it's an intense.
I was
intense
third
pace.
comment, by the way.
I saw that. I saw that. You almost could have been fourth. Good thing you
Almost.
got in. You did. Good thing, man. But yeah, it's just like, and what that does when you really value something in your life that you feel ashamed of, what it does is it tends to divide you from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, I actually did a video about this, sort of about relating to the sorry, my wife's messaging me. Okay, I don't need to do anything. Everything's fine. I did a video where I was talking about Mon Mothma from the new Star Wars TV show Andor. And how she's this character who has to live different lives, separate from each other. The life as a senator, an imperial senator, and the life as a rebel sort of a rebel leader, and about how the cost of that, and the cost to her, and the cost to her family, and everything. And that's what happens when you divide your gamer persona from your personal self. And when you divide yourself in that way, what tends to happen is you create situations where you have to pit parts of yourself against each other, and one wins and the other loses. So like you'd be in a situation where things aren't like maybe you're just not feeling so great, and you probably should be spending some time with your wife or with your family or with whatever, but you just don't want to deal with things. You just play a video game. Okay, you play a video game when you should be doing something else. Video games won. Or maybe it's the kind of thing where like you're in the middle of a round or something, and it's all of a sudden it's time for dinner. Dinner's ready. It's on the table waiting for you. It's been prepared for you.
Yeah.
And you have to and this is actually an example that I use in the video. You have to choose which side of you wins. And that you can avoid that situation by allowing those two parts of you, and you might have more than two parts, to see each other. And that there are skills to doing that. And when you do that, you open up possibilities where this part of your life could suddenly be a boon to this part of your life instead of a cost. And what you do is you free yourself of all these costs and open up all these opportunities. And it's a way of growing your life, I think. That's been my personal experience. And, it's also sort of like, it's sort of like a result of the idea of extreme ownership in some way, I think.
Yeah.
Where extreme ownership is about is about saying it's up to me to fix everything that annoys me. And um, in order to be you, you first have to take the parts of yourself and make them into one thing. Otherwise, when you act on the world, you will be showing different faces to the world. And that will tend to add noise to your output, right? Um, so I think
There's an
that's something that I've really struggled
incompleteness.
with in my content. Yeah.
Yeah, there's an incompleteness that follows from that interaction. Something is not there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I just jabbered for a little while about it. How does that land with you?
That it feels like two sides of the same coin. I think we arrive at some similar conclusions.
Mm.
Our path seems different. My experience, more of the I would word it as when there was a schism. And okay, you know what, it might be different because I was formally trained to do that sort of thing as an officer in the military, where
Okay.
what we call the switch, you flip the switch.
Mm.
You know, the whole like there's a time and place sort of thing, but like a professional version of, I would say, of that, where as an officer you are this person, you are this standard. Nowadays military, it's different. When I came in, it was very much you are this way when you're on duty, off duty, whatever.
Whatever you want.
Right. You know, within the confines of you're still an officer, even off duty, that doesn't, or you're still a military member, you're still expected to act thusly, but
Sure.
the spotlight isn't on you, let's call it.
Mhm.
So two personalities developed, and they had very
Mhm.
distinct, and I could tell the difference, almost like when, like you grow up in the city, right? Or not in the city, you grow up in the country, you've got the southern twang or whatever, you go to the city, that twang leaves it. But when you come back home, it's like bam,
Yeah.
sometimes not even conscious, it's you're talking that way again, you don't even know where it comes
Yeah.
from, and then you realize, well, wait, what was I talking about before I got back home? And this, like, that dichotomy between the two, that's what it feels like. As soon as I walk through the door, bam, I'm this person. And I walk outside the door, bam, now I have this vocabulary, I have this way of thinking. It's a peculiar
Yeah.
experience.
And it strikes me too that when that happens, that it's almost like you are not the one in charge of yourself, of who you are
Yeah.
and how you are. Instead, your environment tells you who you are.
Yep.
And it's good to get feedback from your environment. It's necessary to learn the lessons that it has to teach you, but to be reactive in that way all the time, to let the situation dictate who you are, like there's also hazard in that.
And when you were talking, I was thinking about the integration. What occurred to me was,
Yeah.
to me, the military told me that there was a bad way for those things to come together, because what you do here is not permissible here. So there is an improper, and thus we will punish you if you do that wrong. So most people don't do it at all. They stay separate until they retire, and then bam, they can now be who they were before they joined, or who they want to be now that they're retired, whatever.
I kind of let go of the military persona.
Yeah. And you know, we call it UCMJ, you know, just formal punishment, whatever. But you can get hit pretty hard if you don't follow. So most people just follow, and they push out what else they want to be or who they want to be. But
Okay.
So there's an instructive part, especially when you're young. You know, who we were when we were younger may not be who we are now. Definitely isn't who we are now. But when I don't know the rules of the road, I don't know, it's for my better good to not act like a crazy person who thinks they're integrated and intellectual and all that. So the military tells you, you will be this way. And as you grow up and as you learn and gain wisdom and experience, you start to understand the rules of those roads, and that which rules are there for the benefit of, call it, cohesion and health, and what rules are there for the benefit of those who have to abide by them. And so when I started understanding that, I took the choice to integrate that in a way that was not objectionable to my superiors. And that, I think, is where I've landed, in a place where I'm like my faith base. I'm not preaching to my people. I don't say much about it to people I lead. It's there's not a time and a place for that in most cases. But if like in our nowadays military is very much like there's a lot more talking about personal lives. So throughout the course of those discussions, faith may come up in that sort of environment, which is not an objectionable thing. You just have to be, mindful of the government does not take a position on religion, sort of thing, and you you can't be call it peddling that.
Can't be evangelizing.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't. You are an instrument of the government, not an instrument of faith in that environment. So, yeah. So in any case, it got to a point where I could see what rules applied and what rules were, let's call it, they're all enforceable. But let's say the rules that are there for the benefit of the structure and that are agnostic when it comes to you being able to successfully mend those together. It's kind of a weird way. That's a weird roundabout way to say I feel like I can be the person I am without the rules of the government objecting to it, and that it's much closer to who I feel as a person versus this person A, person B, on and off duty.
Yeah. That insight you shared about the military is really interesting to me. Something I never really thought about. It totally makes sense. It's striking me that the process you described of sort of almost like you're trying on the persona of what seems to be needed by a situation, or by a job, or by a career, or by a relationship, or by a video game, whatever, is kind of generalizable. Is kind of like that's something that I think when we're successfully growing as a person, we're like trying on these things, maybe live with a little bit of disjointedness for a little while with the idea that we will bring them together and go from being many things to being one thing, and kind of consume that possibility. I'm struck by that.
Yeah, there's good reasons for it to be the way it is. The structure is there for the benefit of the past experience. Let's call it the past collective experience of what has been successful, right? It's that shared memory. Then there comes a time when that shared memory seems less of an instruction and more of a guideline. Is the wrong word. It's not a guideline. It's I don't know, the sort of rule that you feel you need to follow in order to survive, but there's wiggle room. I don't know. I sort of lost my point there. It's a deep and large topic.
It sounds like it. I hear you keep going back to it. So yeah,
because I'm not satisfied with the way I'm saying it.
Yeah, you might need to work on it some more. I've been in those situations too, man. But
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I'm sure I wasn't saying anything interesting. It seems to me that in some ways you might still be learning what you need to learn from that division, but you also gain the insight that it is better for you to integrate those things. I wonder if you also feel it's better for the people around you too. Is it just a selfish thing, a purely selfish thing, or is it also better for the people you work with and live with?
I'm not sure that I've accrued the life experience and or wisdom to know yet. I still feel like I'm in that. I'm starting to get out of it. I can see the end of it, the honeymoon phase of it. I just don't think I'm there yet. There's something missing in my experience or wisdom collection to see what that impact is turning into. Like sometimes I feel like I can get carried away in conversation to become too much of like a jokester or playing around,
play a role
in positions of responsibility where serious decisions have to be made, and kind of exploring the wiggle room and the sort of long-term effects that might have on credibility, confidence, on health of cohesion. I feel like I need to.
It's not always good to cut the tension.
Yes. And my personality is to cut all of it, to cut
Right.
everything, because to me
Well, it's a
it's
skill that you have.
the whole world to me is just, it is as serious as we take it. That's like my secret
Sure.
belief, is that one of the reasons why this stuff doesn't bother me so much anymore is because in 80 years I'm going to be on my deathbed. Is it going to matter that 80 years ago that, Shoctorr banned me from his Twitch chat? I mean, is it? But right now it seems
Yeah,
like a
exactly.
bigger deal. So
Sure.
where does that phase out happen? Am I being irresponsible by dwelling on it too much, or am I being irresponsible by indulging the easing of the tension through like jokes or whatever? That's where I am right now
Yeah,
on it.
man. I think that the desire to ease tension tends to come from a sense of agreeableness, where what we're really trying to do is help people connect. We want
Yeah,
conflict to go down, conflict to go away. So it's interesting that you would say that you feel you are attracted to conflict, but also
love it.
attracted to dissolving it by being the jokester, like you said, or something like
I like
that.
the connection. I think if you substitute the word dissolving, um, not substitute. If you connect that to, I like connection, even if it's
Yeah,
conflict connection. There's something satisfying about the connection.
it's still people. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's still. Yep, yep. I totally resonate with that.
it's
It's a good
probably
thing
some
to know,
childhood
100%.
experience that a therapist could uncover. I'm not sure.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't think you. I think you got it already, man. You're
Thanks.
interested in people. You're interested in people, and I'm that way too. Um, then there's nothing wrong with that because people are probably the greatest thing that's ever existed, as far as any of us know.
It makes it interesting. Hey, tell me about the
And
gaming backlog. You went into the
oh,
gaming backlog.
oh
Video
yeah,
gamers to be treated consumptively, that people would have tens or hundreds pieces of media that they feel they need to consume and fulfill a debt they've incurred.
yeah. I guess it was just like, just a moment. Like it was kind of like an aside. Like I don't know what to think about this exactly, but there seem to be a number of people who think of themselves as gamers out there who are struggling with the problem of having more interest in video games than they have time to play them, right? And there's a sense that what they need to do to solve this problem is to be more efficient in their playing habits, to be more dedicated in their playing habits, to be more disciplined in their gaming habits. And this kind of disgusts me because video games are media. Okay? You don't have to consume media. You don't have to.
Okay, I'm with you.
You have to eat food. You got to be a good person to the people around you. You got to add some value to Earth while you're here. Try not to be too much of a dick, but you don't have to consume media. It's not that big of a problem, people. I compare it in my mind to like someone who's really bothered by not watching every single piece of Marvel Cinematic Universe content. Who's really haunted by how hard it is to keep up with all the TV shows and the comic books and the movies and all the different properties. Like, it's an obsession with making your life about experiences that other people made.
Wait, pause.
Go ahead.
Say that again. Processing.
It's an obsession with making your life about experiences that someone else decided on.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
It's
living vicariously through the author and then
exactly.
Okay.
And it's a sort of rejection of the agency we have to make the world a better place, to be so haunted by this inability to consume enough quantity of media. It is and it tends to promote the idea that it is good to consume media, and we should be orienting ourselves to consuming it better. consuming it more efficiently, consuming it more prolifically, and God, I think that couldn't be further from the truth. I think media consumption isn't good or bad; it's what you make of it. And it's certainly easy to make way more of it than it deserves in 2023. Um, I don't know
You
exactly
used
where
a
to go
very
with that.
strong word in the beginning. You said it disgusts you.
It does. It does. And it's a feeling that I haven't really thought all the way through yet. It bothers me, man. It'd probably be the subject of a future video. I don't know, but
And if I'm active listening, it bothers you because it seems unnecessary. I won't use the
try
word
to put it in some
indulgent, but it seemed like
perspective.
there's a word in between unnecessary and indulgent that just makes it not needed. It doesn't need to happen that way. Is what I think I'm hearing.
Okay, let me try to use like an example to explain. Let me try to use an example. So, if you knew someone that was miserable, okay, not present in their conversations, always had their head in their phones, and was constantly scrolling social media, and when you asked them about it, they said, "Oh, well, I can't miss a thing. Like there's all these issues going on. Like there's the war, in Ukraine. There's like these social issues I'm interested in. I have to be up to date. I have to know what's going on because the world's falling apart. I want to know about it or whatever." And this person's making themselves miserable, keeping on top of everything, staying in touch with every single politician, what they said, how they said it, who they said it to. Um, what Putin's doing today, what Zelensky is doing, whatever.
Hmm.
It is an obsession with things that are outside. Let me think about it. No, I think I should. I think I can do it better. I think I can do better. It is. Extreme irresponsibility.
Whoa, that's strong. Extreme irresponsibility to pursue an excessive consumption of things that overwhelm your capacity to fulfill them. Is that statement
things that
capture what
things that are? Yeah, right up until the end. I think that's kind of what I'm thinking. It's making your life about consuming other people's lives. When you do that, you're rejecting the responsibility to make your own life by filling it with other people's stuff.
All right,
social media does it to us. Yeah.
No, keep going. Social media?
Social media does it to us. Netflix can do it to us. Games can do it to us. Yearly Call of Duty can do it to us. Trying to Araxium every single weapon in PlanetSide can do it to us. There are a lot of different ways you can throw your unique potential to have agency to help make the world a better place away for the comfort of filling your life with other people's deeds, other people's creations. And there's nothing wrong with connecting with these things. I think there's something very inspiring and necessary with communing with other people's lives and experiences and what they've made. But it's not something that needs to be turned into a factory floor of consumption.
My burning question as you say that. Would you have agreed with yourself? No, nay. Would you have had this exact mindset before November 1st, you posted Hard Times?
Yeah. This idea has bothered me for a little while. I think I think most of these ideas that I'm talking to you about are things that have really been with me for the last 5 years. And it's just taken all this time to make myself develop my skills and get to the point where I'm ready to talk about them.
It's been slow cooking in the pot roast.
It's the only way to do it, man.
Mm.
Only way to do it, as far as I can tell.
So when you after the backlog, you get into, you don't have to quit the games, you can elevate them. So this
Yeah.
consumptive,
Yeah.
shoot, I didn't write it down. What was irresponsible? What was that first adjective you used?
Extreme irresponsibility, that one.
Extreme irresponsibility. So, what does it mean to elevate the games out of extreme irresponsibility?
Well, it's like two things. First, it's a practice of understanding what it is you bring to the gaming experiences and get out of them. Kind of like what we talked about earlier, with you realizing the connection's important to you, right? And like me realizing I care more about narrative than game balance, that kind of stuff. So understanding what it is to you, and it's about trying to find a way to make it a better thing by projecting more of yourself into it. So
Okay.
I think
I'm
the way a
following.
lot of people move past obsession with gaming is by quitting them. I think it's sort of like the simplest way to do it. Not necessarily the easiest, but the simplest way. It's like, okay, I have too much gaming, I'm just gonna quit gaming and I'm gonna do a bunch of other stuff. Fine. But like for me, my approach has been, I'm going to turn my fascination with video game worlds into, I'm going to try to be someone who's a creator that does content in the video game space. I'm going to try to do a podcast. I'm going to try to do all this stuff. For me, that was a way of elevating my obsession with video games, because I knew that what I was doing was stagnant. I was in a rut, a 20-year rut, and I needed something that was going to help me lift me out of it. And for me, quitting it has never worked. Tried multiple times, always come back, because when you quit something as big as a 20-year video gaming habit, it leaves a void of all the things that the video game gave you behind. And you use other stuff to fill it up reactively. You slouch into even older habits, right? Like food for me. So for me, being like,
That has a very you're
This-
formed by your environment vibe. Keep going.
okay. So for me, it's just like the podcast and the other content that I've done is a way for me to elevate my interest. And what I'm suggesting to people is a more iterative, small footstep way of trying to transform a gaming problem into some kind of creative habit of some kind. It doesn't have to be content related. It can be anything.
Like a lighthouse.
Yeah, it doesn't even really matter what it is. What matters is engaging in the process of dividing up the experience, taking it, what from it that you want, and trying to take those pieces and use them to make something that wasn't there before you got there. It could be the best damn PlanetSide platoon anyone's ever run. It could be a podcast. It could be a website. I digress. Like
The image I got in my mind as you were explaining that,
Yeah.
was, I said the word lighthouse. The image I had in my mind is that a hazy storm that we all wade through, the murky waters of trials, tribulations, and bursted pipes, and ailed pets, and overwhelming bills. And through that murky haze of, am I going to get through this? Who am I going to be on the other side? Am I even going the right direction?
Yep.
Your content is like a lighthouse of, even if you don't have it all figured out, here's a direction you could go that elevates you, that could put you in a better spot, that might be a good direction to go. It's just an image that formed in my brain, is kind of in line with what I think you were saying in your mission statement of
Mm-hmm.
turning this into something else, turning the
Yes.
page to make it not just about you anymore.
Yeah. Yes. To grow out of the need to have my content be something that primarily served me, because I think it's done its job. I'm still going to get help by it. I'm still going to co-develop along with my content, but I've gotten to a point, because of the hard work that I've done and a lot of the help that I've been lucky to receive, that I feel ready to do more. And who knows? I could be wrong. No matter what happens, I'm going to be learning something from this experience, and I expect to grow from that learning. And I have an idea of how this year is going to unfold. Right now, I'm concerning myself with kind of reestablishing what people can expect from me by getting a few weeks of content out that kind of lays it out. From there, get back into podcasts, doing other stuff. I have some other plans too, but yeah, it's just like, it's about not being satisfied, man. Not being satisfied with the things that hurt you. Do something with them, man.
There's another way.
You know, do something with them.
It can be
You
different.
You don't have to abandon a part of yourself to grow. You can see it and use it as a strength. I think the most interesting people in life are people who have gone through things that are weird or different or off the side. And rather than growing despite those things, growing with those things, that's what makes interesting people. That's what makes good stories. That's what makes someone you can learn from. And that's what I'm always looking for. That's what I hope to be myself.
It's chess, not checkers. Right on. So there was an ending quote that pretty much I feel it felt probably like the punchline, and probably because it was at the end
Okay.
as well. You said, if you feel stuck, if you feel resentful toward things that call your attention, that there might be a calling to elevate the way you express that attention. You probably know what this is, what it could look like, and what it could be. And the world would be a better place if you chose to do it. And I thought, man, that's the message right there.
Yes. That's the conceit that I go forward with. Is that the world would be a better place if stuck gamers chose to lift themselves up and abandon the idea that it's okay to be stuck floundering in these online worlds, and to make that into a strength that makes them a better person, a more dangerous weapon in this world. Don't treat your life like you're wasting it. It's a choice of perspective. Because even if you've spent your entire life doing nothing but watching comic book movies, doing nothing but playing video games, you have gotten something out of it. There is something about that that is uniquely yours to wield. And it can be identified, and it can be used to make the world a better place and make yourself better alongside it. And I am sure that if more people did that, the world would only get better and better.
This is the way. There is a way to exist, and it doesn't have to be worse than it was before. By embracing those sorts of things.
And that's a very common message in modern 21st century discourse, that the world's going to shit. Things are worse than they've ever been. Don't believe it. Yeah, you see, it's infecting you too. Affecting you too? Yeah, sure. Some things are bad. Some things have always been bad.
No, I
Part
err
of
on the
this.
side of what you're saying. Things
Okay.
can be
Okay.
pretty bad but I mean, things used to be, and they can be way worse.
Dude, just think how far we've come in just 100 years. Staggering. Yeah, we have a lot of things to figure out still. A lot. But if we've come as far in 100 years as we have, then what's the next 100 going to bring? Like, be part of that. We can be part of that. I'm choosing to.
So you mentioned that, and you alluded to it in your statement. You
Mhm.
also mentioned that you were looking forward to spelling it out or breaching it. What is on the horizon? What's
Yeah, so
what's about to happen?
well, the first part of it just came out today. A video where I told my story of how living with ADHD and not knowing that I had it nearly ruined my life. Basically, I got to a point in my life where I couldn't put things together. And eventually, at the age of 36, I got a diagnosis that helped explain all the things that had gone wrong in my life, or at least many of them, and give me a lever to fix them and work towards the future. It's a huge, important inflection point in my life, that video. Um, and the next few things that I think I'm going to be doing, one's ready to go, the rest are on the drafting table, is kind of getting out the rest of the story of how I've made myself into what I am today. And it'll be talking about how I've lost 200 pounds and what effect that's had on my life. And frankly, I still have a lot more weight to lose. Like, it shows you how far in the red things were when I started. Um, how I turned my gaming addiction into a productive, creative hobby with podcasts and making YouTube content. And after I get all that done, then the question is, to what can I do to speak to people who are in similar places? What can I do to help us get unstuck together? And in terms of format, in terms of what people will see specifically, like, I'm planning to restart doing podcasts again after I get through that content push, because I think that it's useful for people, even guests, to have a sense of what I'm doing, where I'm going now, how things have changed, and it's better to reestablish that content direction before I start having guests back on.
Gotcha.
And then and probably there'll be a lot more guests who are not like gaming community based, so not necessarily PlanetSide or Guild Wars 2 streamers and devs. I'll probably do a wider variety of stuff. And the thing I want to try to do that I'm still trying to figure out exactly how to do is get into short form content, shorts and Instagram, maybe TikTok. I don't know, maybe not. It might be getting banned. I don't know. But there's certainly a lot of potential to grow, and the hope is that I can grow this brand, whatever it ends up being, into something where it becomes an asset and something that can, over time, grow into some kind of a business of some kind. And
Oh, dang.
because yeah, like, one of the key things I realized during this time of being laid off, is I kind of like not having a boss, man.
It is pretty nice.
It's kind of amazing. And there was a time where I needed a boss in my life, someone to tell me how to orient my time and structure my
Hmm.
life. I don't need it anymore.
When you
Now, I
start to
do still
learn the
need a
rules of the
paycheck.
road.
Yes, I do still need a paycheck. So for the time being, I'm going back into the workforce. It'll be that way for at least a few years while I build things up, I'm sure. But eventually, the hope is I can transition into doing this work I'm passionate about at a scale that supports me and my wife, and hopefully makes the world a little bit of a better place.
Well, I'd say you've already accomplished that to the degree that you have with your content, and just by looking at the latest videos where you started not just sharing people's stories, but now getting into your story and how that relates to the mission that you have as a result from your transition. I'm already seeing the fruits of that labor start to blossom.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch what people click on, what people are interested in. There's a lot to learn there still, but I was really encouraged when I started that first night when I sat down and recorded Hard Times and Gratitude. I was really encouraged when I sat down and do that, and people watched it, and people gave some feedback. Like that was really an important moment in a sense of recognizing that I could do something like that.
Yeah, there was a video. I can't remember which one it was. It was quite a while ago. I remember I commented on it when I saw it. I said there's something about this that seems to be marking a transition in your content. It was when it's almost like you deviated from the natural program of your podcast. And
Yeah.
I don't remember which one, but I commented on it, said that there's something about this one, Deeg. There's something about this one. You should look into it. You killing it, man. Killing it. I'm excited for you.
Thank you, man. I'm trying to see if I can find. I don't know if you can search comments for specific people.
There is a way to search comments.
It's not that important. Anyway, I'm glad that it got you excited.
It
I'm
did,
excited
man.
about it.
It did. It's what you've got going on. It's keep on keeping on. I'm excited for you.
I'm gonna try. It's actually been it's been really important for there's sort of a temptation during this time while I'm between jobs to spend all my time working on the job problem. And I spent a tremendous amount of time on it already. I've sent over 300 applications, been in over 50 interviews. Like, dude,
It can be overwhelming.
And a half. This is a terrible time to be looking for tech work. But anyway, there's a temptation to just sort of work at it. There's a point of diminishing returns. And not just in terms of the output, but in terms of my freaking soul, man. Like, being able to spend some time focused on this content and bringing what's within me out has been an important touchstone to be like, what the hell am I doing here on Earth? Like,
I think we all get to that point at some point.
It is hard to be between jobs and not know where your next paycheck's coming from, man.
Yeah.
Doing this has been, it saved me. It saved me from spiraling into a bunch of old coping habits, and it saved me from the abyss, man.
I don't know. If I know nothing about how to soft outro, that's it right there.
All right.
You killed it, man.
This has been fun, man.
This has been great, dude. The Deegsta.
How long have we gone for, dude?
We are now at 2 hours and 45 minutes. It's been a minute, and
I go for another 2.
we got through a lot, man. Just those 4 videos, right? 4 videos churned out 3 hours worth of actual thought content. But I applaud you, the direction you're going with it. I'm excited to see where it's the journey, and I'll be there with you. I'll be watching.
That gives me comfort, Lanzer. It's really good to know that there's some part of what I'm doing that you resonate with, and it's a good validation to hear that. I want to return that gesture too. I'm excited for you, man. You've been putting the pedal to the metal. I'm hoping that you'll get a chance to recollect, reevaluate, and re-engage, man, because I like what you're doing.
Thanks. Even though things can get a little contentious sometimes, I generally enjoy the the goings of it all.
Yes.
There's just something about being in the midst of it and seeing what happens and what connections form. There's something special that's passionate, that makes me passionate and motivated about it. But yeah, that's
Word.
22.
It's obvious watching you.
Yeah, thanks. Well, Deeg, pleasure, man. Pleasure as always. Gonna go ahead and find a good person to raid. Looks like, so we've got Spy, It's Merca, Cad BTV, Pierre, All Legends 7. His was PlanetSide 2 first timer. Sin's Playground, Future Evs, Dim Giant, the big Dim, Vertigo, and Metsk. Do you know those names ring a bell to you?
Honestly, I tuned out.
Oh, did you?
No, I just like. Honestly, I'm so unplugged from Twitch these days.
That's
I'm
okay.
ashamed to admit that.
Let's go with All Legends 7. He's a first timer. Let's rate him.
There you go.
All right, so we're
Support
gonna
the
go
dude.
ahead and
Love it.
hit the heart out on the ending. And thanks, Deeg. Appreciate it, man. Really enjoyed it.
Good game, brother.
Good game.